At the peak of the stock market frenzy, my husband secretly mortgaged our house behind my back and dumped all the money into investments. When the market crashed, he ran off with his mistress, taking every last penny with him. To repay the debts, I left our twins with my mother-in-law and worked around the clock. On the very day I cleared all debts, that scoundrel Suey returned with his mistress to evict me from my own home. My son's icy voice cut through. You jinx, if it weren't for you, my father would be rich, and I'd be living the high life. My mother-in-law chuckled. Now that my son's back, I can finally enjoy my golden years. The other woman aimed a pressure washer straight at me. A fallen phoenix is worth less than a chicken, just another unloved wretch. In my attempt to dodge, I was struck dead by a passing car. Only my daughter clung to me desperately, her eyes red from crying. Mom, don't leave me. When I opened my eyes again, it was 2006, the height of the bull market. Given a second chance, I'll make sure they know what it's like to lose everything. 1. Someone shook me awake. My eyes fluttered open to Suyi's youthful face, his cropped hair neat, his energy boundless. His bloodshot eyes gleamed as he gripped my shoulders, shaking me wildly. Honey, we're rich. Pinch me, quick. My fists clenched violently at my sides, fury burning through my chest as I swung my palms, left, then right, in rapid succession. 2 sharp slaps landed with such force that my palms went numb and throbbed. The pent-up resentment in my chest finally found its release. After years of scheming against me, consider those slaps as just collecting a little interest first. Suey never expected me, usually mild-mannered and soft-spoken, to suddenly become a different person. Stunned, he cupped his reddened cheeks and gaped at me in disbelief. Honey, what's wrong? My mother-in-law heard the noise from the kitchen and rushed in with my son piggybacking. Our 5-year-old was clinging to her back, his little legs still kicking excitedly. Grandma, let's keep playing horsey. It suddenly dawned on me, trees don't rot overnight. They're gradually hollowed out by relentless erosion until one day, a mere gentle push sends the seemingly sturdy giant crashing down. To my mother-in-law who favored sons over daughters, her boy was the heir who'd carry on the Sioux family lineage, their sole hope deserving boundless indulgence. She spoiled her son through the first half of her life, then transferred that doting to her grandson in the latter. In my past life, trapped in the vicious cycle of working to pay debts, I had no bandwidth left for my children's education. My son grew increasingly arrogant and domineering. Meanwhile, my obedient daughter bent her back under my mother-in-law's constant brainwashing. Becoming enslaved to supporting her brother, she dropped out of school early to work, all just to earn money for her brother's home. Those 15 years in my past life turned me into a laughingstock and subjected my daughter to endless suffering. My mother-in-law gasped when she saw Suyi's swollen cheek, hastily putting my son down before glaring at me with fury. Jianyu, have you lost your mind? How dare you hit my son? My son grabbed a magazine from the table and hurled it at me, shouting, You old hag, I'll kill you. Tong Tong stumbled in from outside clutching celery stalks, timidly shielding me. Little brother, don't hit mommy, mommy will get hurt. How could that old hag feel pain? Grandma says she's thick-skinned. I knelt down and wrapped my arms around Tong Tong's tiny frame, tears welling up in my eyes. Tong Tong, puffing her cheeks, she gently blew on my forehead. Blow away the pain, Mama. Mama's not hurting anymore. Never will again, my precious girl, this time. I'll never let life's burdens crush her. Suppressing my anger, I looked up with teary eyes and stammered to Suyi, Honey, didn't you insist I hit you just now? Your expression scared me. I thought you were possessed. I didn't mean to. Suyi waved dismissively. Forget it, it wasn't intentional. Our son immediately threw himself into his arms. Daddy, does it hurt? How will blow on it to make it better. Suyi was delighted. He scooped up his son in a spinning airplane hold, while their daughter Tong Tong watched them with envious eyes. I quietly hugged her tiny frame and whispered in her ear, Mommy will take Tong Tong to ride Dumbo at the amusement park next time. Her eyes sparkling, our daughter planted a loud kiss on my cheek. My mother-in-law fretted anxiously nearby. All right, don't drop how. What's got you all so excited? Mom, guess what? We're about to strike it rich, he said gleefully, ignoring the pain on his face. Do you know how much the stock market surged today? A full 200 points. My stocks jumped 15%. I made $3,000 in a single day. That's my boy, so successful. We ought to celebrate, my mother-in-law said, turning to me. Why are you just standing there? Get cooking. I mumbled an agreement, scooped up Tong Tong, and retreated to the kitchen, tossing the celery from her hand into the trash. I planted several kisses on her chubby little cheeks. Mommy, sweet Tong Tong. We're going out for a fancy dinner tonight, but Grandma asked Tonton to pick vegetables. From now on, Tonton just needs to listen to Mommy, too. While the three inside were still caught up in their joy, I grabbed my bag, took Tonton, and headed straight to KFC where I ordered a large kid's meal. As Tonton happily munched on fries, I sank into thought. Sui loved stock trading, always claiming it was one of the easiest ways to make money in the world and a powerful tool for the underprivileged to turn their lives around. After years of trading, his results remained mediocre. He barely earned more than standard bank interest rates, but in 2005, the stock market entered a bull run, with the shareholding structure reform acting as the catalyst. By 2006, the signs became clear. Stock prices were doubling overnight. It peaked in 2007, climbing steadily from 2,700 points to reach an all-time high of 6,124 points in October. Overnight riches became reality. Everyone turned into stock gurus, with market chatter filling every street corner. That's when Sui made his first fortune. Initially devoted to our family, his first move after striking gold was selling our work unit allocated apartment. With his earnings, we upgraded to a spacious riverside home, just when I thought our hardships were finally paying off. That old saying, power corrupts, proved true, delayed but inevitable. What shocked me more was discovering he'd been carrying on with Luoyin. His in turn, long before we bought our house, they'd been jet-setting around under the guise of business trips. He showered her with designer bags, 5-star suites, and business-class flights, yet had the nerve to scold me for being wasteful and failing at parenting. It's simply that his mindset has changed. Now that he's wealthy, he thinks his plain Jane wife isn't good enough for him anymore. But he forgets, the money he gambles in stocks was painstakingly saved by me, from our shared marital assets. Greed truly is a demon. At the peak of the stock market frenzy, he quit his job, maxed out credit cards, and even borrowed my mother's entire pension savings under our 2 children's names, with compound interest working its magic. He'd amassed tens of millions by 2007. People would address him as Boss Sue wherever he went. That June, everyone swore this bull run would smash through the 10,000 point barrier. Behind my back, he secretly mortgaged our home. Every penny from the cash out went straight into the stock market. By October's peak, just 6 months later, the market had halved repeatedly, wiping out Suyi's entire high-stakes investment. Buried in debt and egged on by Luoyin, they liquidated assets covertly, fled to Hong Kong with their savings, and left all liabilities to me, his cast-off wife. Back when Pudong's average housing price was under 10,000 yuan, I suddenly found myself 2 million in debt overnight. Staring at my 2 young children, I gritted my teeth and left them with my mother-in-law, quitting my cushy but low-paying government job to brave the scorching sun as a real estate agent. Fortunately, while the stock market was struggling, the property market kept soaring. I graduated from selling apartments to dealing with luxury mansions. For over a decade, I worked from dawn till dusk, pinching every penny until I finally paid off all my debts. Just as life started looking up, my son grew distant, only calling me mom when he needed money. My daughter became painfully timid, afraid of light and people. The doctor diagnosed her with depression. When I was at my wit's end, Sui, missing for years, returned with Luoyin. My mother-in-law greeted them with a beaming smile. You've lost weight out there. Now that all debts are cleared, you can settle down at home without worries. To this day, I still remember that smug look of petty triumph on her face. It's all this Jinx's fault. Such a small sum took years to repay, making my son suffer abroad. Luoyin linked arms with her and slipped a hefty gold bracelet onto her wrist. Mom, you and How just wait to live the good life from now on. My son stood obediently nearby, addressing her as stepmom with every word. Dad, stepmom, you've no idea how miserable my life's been. This old hag's never home, probably fooling around with some man. I'm kicking her out right now. Neither my husband's betrayal nor the crushing debt could break me. My son's betrayal chilled me to the bone. I planned to leave the rented place with my daughter. We could make ends meet on our own. But Luoyin suddenly grabbed someone's high-pressure car washer and sprayed me. Come see this shameless woman, sleeping around and cuckolding her husband. I kept stumbling backward to dodge the jet of water. That's enough. Keep this up and I'm calling the police. Luoyin laughed hysterically. A fallen phoenix fares worse than a chicken, just like unloved wretches. My daughter Tong tried snatching the water gun from Luoyin, but Sui delivered a vicious kick to her chest, sending her stumbling backward. A car came speeding toward us. I lunged forward, grabbed my daughter's arm, and switched places with her. The next instant, I was violently struck by that speeding vehicle. In my fading moments, I saw my daughter rushing toward me, screaming desperately, "Mom, don't leave me. My daughter has been struggling with depression. It's been ages since she last called me mom. Thank goodness there's still time. Her life shouldn't end this way." Even fate must have taken pity on my wretched life, granting me this second chance. Now I'll cut away the rot clinging to me, shed these moral shackles, and truly live, for my daughter, and for myself. Hatred pools in my eyes. I'll make their whole family pay, a tribute to my innocent self who died unjustly in my past life. Tong Tong split the fries in half, eating only the slightly burnt ones that had fallen outside. 3. Curious. I asked, "Tong Tong, why aren't you eating these?" Her big, round obsidian eyes blinked as she replied, "Grandma says we should save the best for little brother. He's our family's future. I must always put him first, that way Mom and Dad will be happy." I stood frozen, my heart aching unbearably. My 5-year-old daughter was already being indoctrinated with this toxic brother-first mentality by my mother-in-law. Gradually but surely, she's losing herself completely. "Tong Tong, eat up. Everything here today is just for you. We're not taking anything home." Her eyes instantly sparkled. "Really, can I keep the toys too?" I gave a solemn nod. "Later, Mommy will take Tong Tong to Grandma's house. Do you love visiting Grandma?" Tong Tong loves her grandma the most. Grandma always dresses her in pretty dresses and braids her hair beautifully, but sadly, Grandma cut off Tong Tong's braids. My eyes welled up with tears as Grandma, finding Tong Tong's long hair troublesome, secretly gave her an uneven boy's haircut while she slept. That day, Tong Tong's cries shattered my heart. My son clapped and teased beside her. "Baldy, sis is a baldy, so ugly." That was the first time I really laid into how. "She's your little sister. As her big brother, you should protect her, not mock her. Were you raised by wolves?" How wailed in pain. "Grandma said I'm the younger brother, so sister should give way to me." After my mother-in-law arrived, Tong Tong went from being the younger sister to the older one. As if elder sisters were born to yield to their younger brothers, the mother-in-law slapped her thighs and wailed on the floor. "I'm old and unwanted by my daughter-in-law now. I just worried Tong Tong might get lice in this hot weather. What did I do wrong?" Sui was a filial son, though his father often beat his mother when drunk. My son couldn't bear seeing his mother suffer, so he suggested she help take care of our child. This way she could also escape the brutal beatings from her father-in-law back home. The thought of my gentle mother-in-law enduring daily abuse pained me, so I agreed. Little did I know this meek woman I'd known before marriage would start causing endless trouble after moving in. It finally dawned on me that it wasn't my father-in-law's fault. My mother-in-law simply had it coming, but she's such an actress in public, always linking arms with me and showering me with elaborate praises in front of neighbors, leaving me no room to defend myself. Even when Sui absconded with the money, neighbors still came advising, "Your mother-in-law treats you so well, you can't possibly abandon your young child and run away alone." Screw that. The moment I ditch morality, nobody can guilt-trip me anymore. With tears in my eyes, I gently stroked Tong Tong's hair and said, "No way, sweetheart. Grandma loves you most in the world. She'd only say how beautiful you are." I hailed a cab and took Tong Tong to my mother's place. Coming. Who is it?" My mother's voice rang out from afar, vibrant and full of vitality. 4. Tears welled up in my eyes. It's been years since I last saw my mother. After I got into debt, seeing how hard I struggled, my mother couldn't bear it and sold her old apartment where she'd been living. The money from the sale helped pay off part of my debt. She then moved to Zhejiang to live with my aunt. After falling ill, she often blamed herself. She shouldn't have let Suyi's relatives guilt-trip me into taking on that debt in the first place. It condemned me to a lifetime of toil, enduring my mother-in-law's abuse, my son's estrangement, and my daughter's suffering. She should have urged me to leave that household instead. However hard life might have been with 2 kids, at least we'd have stayed together as a family. When Pudong's property prices skyrocketed later, my mother could never afford to return to Shanghai. In the end, illness took her from me. Even in her final moments, she couldn't let go of her hopeless daughter. It was her regret, and my sin. The door swung open, and I embraced my mother tightly, apron-clad with a spatula still in hand. Tong Tong mimicked me, clinging to my mother's leg while sweetly calling out, "Grandma, Mom, why are you back so suddenly? Where's AE? Where's how?" My mother's expression hardened when she noticed my reddened eyes, pulling me inside while sending Tong Tong to play with the puppy on the balcony. "What's wrong? Did someone bully you?" My mother never liked my mother-in-law, thinking she's petty. Even though Shanghai doesn't have bride prices, she wouldn't even spring for the traditional gold jewelry. She'd often say, "You'll have a hard life marrying into that family." back then. I was dead set on marrying Sui and thought Mom just looked down on him for being an out-of-towner. As it turned out, experience trumps youth. Nothing, I just missed you. Under my mother's scrutinizing gaze, I nervously fidgeted with the hem of my shirt. You've always been the quiet type since childhood, bottling up grievances and never sharing them with me, let alone saying you missed me. If anything's bothering you, talk to me. I gently hugged my mom's waist. No one understands me better than her. How wonderful. I have a mother again. Mom, Sui might come asking to borrow money soon. Whatever you do, don't lend him any. You too, I said calmly. He cheated. I've decided to get a divorce. My mother pressed her lips together and walked into the house without a word, following her anxiously. I watched as she pulled out a savings passbook and shoved it into my hand. Take this, since you're divorcing. Hurry up and find a place, hire a lawyer, fight for custody of the child. My mother didn't even ask why. I lowered my gaze, the red passbook in my hand weighing like gold. It held exactly 300,000 yuan. Inside was my father's accident compensation and her own hard-earned pension savings over the years. Mom, I don't need the money. I'm fine. Don't kid yourself. We both know you poured every last penny of your savings into their household. Thinking of the measly few thousand left in my account, I quietly shut my mouth, suddenly struck by a thought. I squeezed my mother's hand. Come with me somewhere. If I could do it all over again, I'd never put myself in that situation. My top priority would be solving my financial struggles. After marriage, Sui felt bad for his mother's hardships and gave her his salary card, saying it was to give her a sense of security. Our daily expenses all came from my salary. If it weren't for my mother's occasional financial help, I wouldn't even have a few hundred yuan to my name, let alone thousands. I left Tongtong in the care of our neighbor, Granny Zhang. We took a cab straight to the exchange, where crowds were swarming at the entrance. Back then, opening a stock account required in-person registration, and 300k was enough to make us VIP clients here. 5. The securities manager's crow's feet deepened into ravines when he saw the cash balance on our card. This way. Ma'am, how much are you planning to invest? Though the stock market had begun rising by late 2006, most ordinary folks were still taking a wait-and-see approach. With a sweeping gesture, I declared, everything. Put it all under Mom's name. My mother gripped my hand nervously. Have you lost your mind, sweetheart? Trust me, Mom, leave this account with me. I'll make you a multimillionaire, Mom, within 2 years. The fierce determination flashing in my eyes made my mother gradually loosen her grip, muttering to herself, you've lost your mind. When the manager finally completed all the paperwork, I breathed a sigh of relief while my mother touched that document in disbelief. Right there in the trading hall, I immediately invested 300,000 yuan to purchase shares of Guangzhou Shipyard International, at 1.2 yuan per share. My portfolio of 250,000 shares would steadily climb to 77 yuan within the coming year. 300,000 will turn into 20 million, without my mom's principal. Let's see how Sui compounds his interest to become the illustrious boss Su. The PHS phone in my backpack kept ringing incessantly. I answered, only to hear my mother-in-law screaming through the receiver, Jiangyu, where the hell are you when you're supposed to be cooking? Trying to starve us to death. My son chimed in from the other end, you old hag. Are you trying to starve me to death? Sui waited until my mother-in-law finished scolding before casually saying, honey, hurry back. Haohao's crying from hunger. Without another word, I burst into tears. Darling, thank goodness you called. Mom fainted and the hospital needs payment. Can you wire me 10,000? It's urgent. What? Jiangyu, you've got some nerve asking for that much. Do you think 10,000 grows on trees? Didn't your father get a huge accident compensation payout? Where's all that money? The moment money was mentioned, Sui immediately clammed up and passed the baton to my mother-in-law, conveniently disappearing from the conversation. Mom, my mother invested that money. But the investment firm turned out to be scammers. She collapsed from shock today when she went to withdraw funds and found they'd vanished. Sui, so your mother's broke now. Honey, hurry up and wire me the money. My mom's waiting. He stammered on the phone, sweetheart, I'm broke right now. Why don't you ask auntie or uncle for a loan first? I sobbed louder. Didn't you just say you made a killing in stocks? Cash that out now. This is literally life or death. No way. My stocks are on a hot streak. I'll make thousands more tomorrow. Here's 500 for now. Figure out the rest yourself. I lowered my gaze, a mocking smile tugging at the corner of my lips. How blind I must have been in my past life to not see this man's selfish nature. The hushed voice of my mother-in-law came through the landline, laced with malice amidst the static crackle. Haohao, Cry quickly so your father won't have to transfer money to that old hag. My son's cries pierced through, his childish voice ringing loud and clear. That old hag is here to swindle Dad's money. I want the pretty auntie, not this old woman. Sui hastily hung up the phone. My mother watched me with a worried expression. Sweetheart, what about how? The landline speaker was so loud that Mom heard every word of the conversation. Indeed, no son would ever call his own mother an old hag. I even suspected the pretty auntie my son mentioned was Luoyin. That last shred of reluctance about my son was completely severed. Mom, whether Sui cheated or not, I can only get custody of one child. My mother frowned slightly, wiping away my tears with her fingers. I support you, sweetheart. You can do whatever you set your heart on. I nuzzled my cheek gently against her palm. Mom, come with me somewhere tomorrow, just 6 more months. And I'll be free. My mom's way more decisive than I am when it comes to getting things done. With just one phone call, she summoned my aunt to take care of Tong Tong for 2 days. Tong Tong was overjoyed to see her aunt and waved me goodbye cheerfully. 6. Concerned about my mom's health, I booked her a full medical checkup. In my past life, she literally worked herself to the bone worrying about me, taking odd jobs even after retirement just to help pay off my debts. Thankfully, the results showed she's in perfect health except for some minor arthritis. That's one less thing weighing on my mind. Before leaving, I casually mentioned to my mom, walk-up apartments are too hard on the knees. Several new developments just launched. Maybe you could check them out when you have time. Mom nodded emphatically. We really should move. Tong Tong won't have access to good schools if we stay here. No need to rush into buying a new place though. After all, I've only got a few $1,000 to my name right now. You can't make bricks without straw. After saying goodbye to my mom, I timed it perfectly and still returned to the old house. At this time every day, my mother-in-law takes how square dancing. I came home to shoes scattered by the doorway, dishes piled in the kitchen, and laundry strewn across the couch. My eye twitched involuntarily. Normally I wouldn't stand the mess and would have tidied up immediately, but now, not my damn problem. Ever since my moral standards took a nosedive, my mastitis miraculously cleared up. I went into the bedroom and retrieved my ID documents and property deed. This apartment was allocated through my workplace's welfare housing program, purchased before marriage for 80,000 yuan since it's welfare housing. Sui couldn't be added to the deed. My mother-in-law was furious back then. She even reneged on the promised 8,000 yuan for my bridal gold jewelry. In my past life, Sui sweet-talked me into selling my assets for a bigger house, turning my premarital property into joint ownership, debts included. This time around, I'll outthink him and strike harder. Sui's gone radio silent since I asked him for money yesterday. I called their company reception and lied that Sui had left some documents at home. The receptionist told me Sui was on a month-long business trip with his team. I scoffed. This was exactly when he'd gotten together with Luoyin in my past life. This time around, he still couldn't keep his pants zipped, which bought me precious time. Back at the office, I quietly sidled up to my colleague Wu Meili. I complimented her stylish outfit, to which she gave me a lazy glance and said, "Look at you, only 30 but acting 40, why work yourself to death?" 7. Don't think I want to either. My husband's been acting crazy lately, demanding I sell our place so he can gamble on stocks. Swears he'll strike it rich. Isn't your brother looking to buy? Wu Meili, who'd been filling in her brows, arched one skeptically and scoffed. So what's your price? Just know up front, we're not paying top dollar. Wu Meili's younger brother was the neighborhood troublemaker. Thanks to family connections, he landed a petty urban management job and strutted around throwing his weight around. I pursed my lips and said, 700,000, full payment up front, but I'll need an extra year before handing over the property. My apartment measures 103 square meters and has a market value around 800,000. Wu Meili's eyes lit up at the offer. She immediately called her brother, and they sealed the deal that very day. After all, she just sees me as an easy mark. The reason I chose Wu Meili was precisely because of her family's powerful connections and Wu Yingjuan's ruthless methods. A month later, when the money hit my mom's account, she jumped in fright, convinced it was a scam. Mom, when you have time, go check out some houses. The more private the better. Don't worry about the price being steep, just put down a deposit. We'll pay it off in no time. Mom scolded me affectionately, saying I still hadn't recovered my senses. After closing the property deal, I handed in my resignation at work. My balding old boss wore an expression of utter disbelief. Jiangyu, has your family been going through some difficulties lately? He truly was a kind soul. In my past life, he kept persuading me to stay when I resigned. knowing my family's financial struggles. He later quietly slipped me 2,000 yuan, but he later fell into the stock market trap, losing everything in 2008 before jumping from a building. We shouldn't let good people lose faith in humanity. I've decided to help him out. No, my family's planning to move to a new place. It's quite far, so commuting would be a hassle, the senior executive said with a smile. I heard your spouse is doing well in stock trading. Let's compare notes sometime. I straightened up and replied, Sir, the stock market's risky. You've got to cash out while you're ahead. Property investment's more solid, and it helps diversify risks. Makes sense. He gave me a thumbs up. I can't save everyone, but I hope good people survive. The resignation process went smoothly. I first bought a Nokia high-definition camera phone, got a new number at China Mobile. Then called Sui Company's front desk asking for Luoyin. A sweet, coquettish voice came through the phone. Who's this? 8. This is postal service. You've got an international package for delivery, but the address on the box is illegible. Could you confirm your shipping address? Luoyin didn't suspect a thing. Lately she'd been inseparable from Sui, who frequently bought her luxury items from official websites. Write this down. I live in apartment 201, no, 16 New Garden. Got it. Thanks for your cooperation. Looking at the address I'd obtained so effortlessly, an eerie calm settled over me as my lips curled into a slow smile. Luoyin, in this lifetime, I'll show no mercy to those who were down, drawing on my past life knowledge of neighborhood properties. I swiftly secured the perfect third-floor apartment facing hers online, prime location with ideal sightlines. Spending 10 grand, I hired 2 PIs for round-the-clock surveillance on her and her residence. After New Year's, I transferred Tonton to a private kindergarten and had him stay at my mom's place. My mother-in-law couldn't care less about me, fussing only over her precious son and grandson while giving me constant dirty looks. I didn't mind at all. During this period, I indulged in good food and drinks, even signed up for boxing classes. After quitting my job, I suddenly had all the time in the world. 9. Then came the roaring bull market of 2007, putting smiles on everyone's faces. Stocks became the hottest topic on every street corner. Even the supermarket auntie wouldn't stop talking about it while I was buying soy sauce. I know this is the last hurrah before the avalanche hits. Thrilled by the photos diligently sent by the private investigator, I hailed a cab to the shopping mall, splurged on a shopping spree, and treated myself to a delicious petite steak dinner. Arriving home but not yet through the door, my mother-in-law's voice pierced through. What's gotten into you lately? Coming home late every day with all these shopping bags. Are you cheating on my son? A sour stench wafted from the kitchen. I couldn't help but cover my nose. What's that awful smell? It's choking me. My mother-in-law's eyes flickered at my words. She gritted her teeth and spat. You shameless hussy, fooling around with men, putting on makeup and shopping counts as fooling around now. Her son's been sleeping around, yet she still acts like some pure maiden. I shot her a glance and drawled, I'd keep quiet if I were you. My fists have been itching lately. My son burst out of his room waving a toy sword, shouting, the wicked witch is back. In the name of light, I'll vanquish you. I lifted my son effortlessly with just one hand. At barely 5 years old, he was like a mantis trying to stop a chariot, completely outmatched against me. I grabbed him and gave him 2 hard smacks on the bottom, making him burst into tears. My mother-in-law was startled by my sudden move and immediately launched into her usual dramatic wailing. This is outrageous. A wicked mother beating her own son. I can't go on living. I remained impassive, watching her performance. She glared at me with venomous eyes, raising her hand to strike my face. With a contemptuous smirk, I caught her wrist midair and delivered 2 sharp slaps across her cheek. My mother-in-law's head snapped to the side from the blow, her eyes wide with disbelief. You hit how, and now you're hitting me. I chuckled. That's right, I've got no morals. Better keep your distance unless you want another slap. Sitting cross-armed on the couch, I watched my mother-in-law slink into the room to make a furtive phone call. She probably wants her son to come back and teach me a lesson. I would have been scared before, but now I've got nothing left to lose. Suyi's nothing but a joke to me. The moment Sui stepped through the door, my phone buzzed with photos from the private investigator. Premium phones are simply superior. The photos come out crystal clear. The towering man cupped the woman's face passionately, their fervent kiss so intense they couldn't even bother drawing the curtains before craving carnal union. Judging by Suyi's sour expression, he clearly didn't get what he wanted and left unsatisfied. Jiangyu, how dare you lay hands on my mother? You've got a death wish. The moment he realized my mom was broke, he dropped the act completely around me. His stocks have been skyrocketing lately. He's raking in thousands daily. Without startup capital, His earnings couldn't possibly keep up with Luo Yin's spending habits. In his past life, he'd outright bought the new garden property as a gift for Luo Yin. This time around, renting was the only way he could afford to support her. I cracked my knuckles. This wasn't enough. I needed to stoke his greed further. The game should end now that he's plunged into the abyss beyond redemption. I wiped away non-existent tears from the corner of my eye. Darling, don't be mad. I was late because I went to buy your birthday present. How was I supposed to know Mom would accuse me of fooling around with other men the moment she walked in, even if she's my mother? She can't slander my love for you like that. I nearly gagged at my own words while pretending to adore him. 10. A gift. Where'd you get the money? Suyi's eyes lit up instantly as he unwrapped the box I handed him. Inside was a luxury watch from a top brand, retailing for 50 grand. How did I know he wanted this? Private investigators sent me the photos, of course. Last week he took Luo Yin on a business trip, and while shopping together, he bought her 2 Chanel bags. Coincidentally, there was a luxury watch boutique nearby where he instantly fell for that particular timepiece, though at the time, Luo Yin managed to steer him away with various excuses. Spotting the watch, his tone softened instinctively. Honey, this must have cost a fortune. Of course, it costs 50 grand. My mother-in-law flew into a rage from her hiding spot and charged at me. Ready to strike. You jinx, still claiming you're not seeing other men. Where'd you get that kind of money? I pulled Sui closer. A resounding slap landed on his face as I struggled to suppress the smirk tugging at my lips. Honey, are you okay? Mom was just like this earlier. Wouldn't even let me explain. Thank goodness I have you to protect me this time. Sui stood dazed from his mother's slap. His meticulously styled hair was now disheveled, proof of how vicious that slap had been. That's great. Why didn't you hit him a few more times? Mom, what are you doing? We weren't even done talking. Why did you resort to violence? Son, I just feel for you. You work so hard outside, while your wife splurges left and right buying unnecessary things. Honey, I didn't spend your money. This is all from my own earnings. That pathetic salary of yours doesn't even hit 50K a year. How'd you earn it? Bet you spread your legs for cash. Saw you laughing it up with some young guy getting into his car. Men love keeping their wives at home while fooling around themselves, but God forbid their woman steps out. His face twisted instantly upon hearing it. Jiangyu, you're cheating on me. His bulging eyes glared like a toad's, grotesque and revolting. With a pout, I lowered my head. That's my cousin Jiang Chen. I made all this money following his advice. He said the stock market would break 10,000 points and told me to get in fast. At the mention of stocks, Suyi's angry expression instantly vanished. Jiang Chen, didn't he go abroad? Yeah, my cousin just came back from studying finance abroad. He's working at a securities firm now with insider tips. That's how I made nearly 100K last month just following his lead. Shame I didn't have more capital, could have earned way more. Seeing his disbelief, I immediately called my cousin. Sis, did brother-in-law like the watch? Chin, quick, tell your brother-in-law you're the one who showed me how to make this money. He thinks I'm lying. Jiang Chen, brother-in-law, don't blame my sister. She's genuinely kind-hearted. Last time when Aunt was sick, she was borrowing money everywhere. I just wanted to help her out seeing how tough it was for her. As soon as the call ended, Sui immediately scooted closer. Honey, don't be mad. It's all my mom's fault. She's getting senile. I gave him a solid whack, then looked up at my mother-in-law and said, Mom, I know there's been a misunderstanding. I bought you a gold bracelet. That 100-gram chunky bracelet instantly brought a beaming smile to my mother-in-law's face. Honey, did Cousin Chen mention any promising stocks lately? Seeing him take the bait, I lowered my eyelids slightly. Chen said Chalco's IPO is coming soon. Major brand. Guaranteed tenfold return minimum. Subscriptions open immediately. Suyi's eyes darted rapidly after hearing this. After dinner, he sneaked into his mother's room. I leaned against the door eavesdropping on their conversation. Turns out Sui had opened his stock trading account under his mother's name to keep me in the dark. It was linked to his salary card. And now he's trying to convince his mom to dip into her life savings. My mother-in-law was still hesitant, so I told him to go try it first. I smiled. A wolf's appetite grows gradually with feeding. From that day on, I started buying designer brands and all sorts of jewelry daily, dressing Sui from head to toe. When in a good mood, I'd bring gifts for my mother-in-law too, chunky gold bracelets, thick gold chains, and buy toys and snacks for How. He'd call me Mom affectionately every chance he got, looking every bit the nouveau riche. I told Sui I'd mortgaged my house and handed all the cash to my cousin to subscribe to Chalco shares. 11. Seeing my rising fortunes, Sui grew so anxious that cold sores broke out around his mouth. Been acting all mysterious these past few days. The private investigator handed me the gathered evidence. I was absolutely thrilled. Sui, desperate to free up liquid assets, actually abused his position as procurement manager to substitute imported goods with domestic ones at his company. He even had Luoyin forge a property deed to secure a high-limit credit card. Between them, they siphoned off nearly 800,000 yuan before scrambling to pull strings and dump it all into Chinalco shares. He wouldn't dare approach Jiang Chen, too afraid I'd find out. Wait until April when the stocks go public. Just as predicted, the prices kept climbing steadily within mere days. With Suyi's substantial initial capital, his account balance had already surpassed 3 million in just 2 months. If he cashes out now, not only would he avoid losses, but he'd also walk away with hefty profits. But greed is the devil, easy come, easy go. He and Luoyin were completely intoxicated by their get-rich-quick fantasy. Finally, I stormed into their office with those compromising photos of their affair. Everyone at Suyi's company knew me. The receptionist visibly panicked when she saw me storming in with fury written all over my face. My 6 months of boxing training paid off. The scrawny receptionist stood no chance against me. Where's Sui? Where's Luoyin? 12, bursting into the office area. I spotted Luoyin showing off her new handbag to coworkers. Oh, my boyfriend got this for me. Not expensive at all. Just 30 grand. Someone nearby chimed in admiringly. Your boyfriend's amazing. He must be the boss, right? Oh, nothing special. He just pulls in like 100 grand a day. I refuse to make a scene. Sometimes going full psycho bitch just hits different. The moment I stepped in, I grabbed her thick mane of curly hair. Seriously, didn't anyone warn this homewrecker? Never wear your hair down unless you want the wife to teach you a lesson. The sudden yank made her shriek in pain. Who's there? Help. The moment she saw my face, she clammed up like a startled quail. Sister you, what brings you here? Luoyin had met me before. Without wasting words, I pinned her to the ground and delivered stinging slaps across her meticulously maintained face. After holding back for so long, I can finally vent my pent-up rage. 5 or 6 consecutive slaps instantly swollen her pretty face. Homewreckers should have seen this coming. The only reason I endured staying married to Sui was to exercise my rights as the lawful wife, to unleash all my past grievances, fury, and suffering upon them. I'll slap that smug face of yours today. Let's see how you'll seduce married men then. Not a single colleague around her stepped in to help. That's manager Sue's wife, isn't it? I've seen her before. Always knew Luoyin and the manager were carrying on. Exactly. Where would a young girl like her get the money for such an expensive bag? So-called boyfriend. Turns out he's someone else's husband, and you call yourself a college student. What an embarrassment to your school. The gossip pierced her heart like a dagger. Luoyin wept pitifully. It's not true. Yi and I share real love. He said there's no affection between you two. You even sleep separately. He loves me now and will divorce you to marry me soon. Divorce? Is he even worthy? We have 2 children together. Who do you think you are? Just some plaything he's killing time with. Her eyes gleamed with triumph. Who am I? I'm carrying his child. You'll be out on the streets soon enough. Though clearly in the office, Sui cowardly hid away, leaving Luoyin alone to face the crowd's scorn. After what felt like ages, the company CEO emerged with Sui in tow, his face stormy, and ushered us into the conference room. The moment I stepped through the door, tears started streaming down my face, my carefully applied makeup smeared, my neatly pressed clothes became disheveled. That's exactly what I was waiting to hear. Before the entire company, I poured out every ounce of grievance I'd endured over the years. Sui, remember college, when you could only afford 2 ounces of rice per meal? It was me sharing half my dishes with you. After graduation, when you complained about your non-local residency putting you at disadvantage, it was me swallowing my pride to beg my uncle for your job. Before marriage, I waived both dowry and wedding ceremony because you promised ambition. After marriage, you pressured me into having kids, saying others would help raise them. And what thanks do I get? Your mother calls me wasteful for eating 1 extra chicken drumstick. Since when does wasteful mean 1 drumstick? Now you're spending our marital assets on your mistress. After I bought your watches and your mother's gold, this is your gratitude. I tore apart all his hypocrisy over the years. Let's see how this prideful man handles this humiliation. Enough, Jianyu. Don't think your petty favors will earn my gratitude. You've always looked down on me, thinking I'm beneath you in every way. Well, I've changed now. You've got money. I've got more. I want a divorce. I grabbed the ashtray from the table and hurled it straight at his temple. Caught off guard, he clutched his forehead hopping mad. his gentle scholar facade crumbling as he raised his hand against me. Out the corner of my eye, I caught Luo Yin's smirk. 6 months of daily 3-hour boxing sessions paid off today. I can now floor my personal trainer. Spousal brawls during marriage are dismissed as domestic disputes. Not even the cops intervene, especially with so many witnesses present. I'm about to deliver some righteous domestic discipline. In the blink of an eye, I arched backward and delivered a swift kick to Suyi's flank. I laughed. The pain drove him into a frenzy. He lunged at me recklessly, trying to leverage his natural masculine advantage. Jiangyu, I'm your husband. How dare you hit me? Left hooks. Right jabs to the ribs. A flurry of punches targeting vulnerable spots. To outsiders it looked like mutual combat, but this was pure assault. At the perfect moment, I turned my fair cheek to catch his slap, then seized his wrist and slammed him over my shoulder, crashing him onto their office glass table. Boom. The deafening impact echoed as I delivered a knife-hand strike straight to his groin. Better off neutering that disobedient little troublemaker. As the farce concluded, Luo Yin trembled in fear from my ferocity, cowering in the corner whimpering, "Sister Yu, I was wrong. Please don't hit me." The company ultimately called the police. Officers arrived to find complete chaos, Sui writhing uncontrollably on the floor. My hair was disheveled, my right cheek swollen and red, with smeared lipstick stretching from the corner of my mouth to my ear. I looked even worse off than Sui. Given the severity of the scene, the police took us to the hospital. I shrugged and nodded, following along as Luo Yin supported Sui, saying, "This was intentional assault, we're pressing charges." After a full examination, Sui had no injuries except for some pain in his groin. Turns out everyone knew the cheating couple ganged up on the betrayed wife. Such a dramatic scene was inevitably captured by office gossips and posted online. It's a shame short videos weren't mainstream yet, their faces would have been absolutely torn apart by netizens. The police finally made their official determination. For domestic disputes between spouses, verbal counseling is the primary approach. Luo Yin protested. "She beat us up like this. I demand compensation." The officer shot them a disdainful look. "People like you, disrupting public decency, should apologize to Ms. Jiang immediately." With tears welling up, Luo Yin muttered a reluctant apology. "Sorry," I replied lazily. "Not happening." At the police station, I summoned my lawyer and bodyguards to formally file for divorce in front of everyone. Sui glared at the divorce papers drafted by the lawyer, his eyes blazing with anger. "You knew all along." "Knew what? The affair or the asset transfers? You're playing me." 13. Who's playing whom? Transferring marital assets, engaging in an improper relationship with a third party, publicly presenting yourselves as husband and wife. My gaze fell on Luo Yin's belly. "And here's physical evidence, more than enough to charge you with bigamy." Luo Yin clutched her belly and shrank into the corner, afraid I'd lose control. "What do you want?" Sui asked through clenched teeth. I flashed them a triumphant smile, thoroughly satisfied to see them both choking back their anger. "We'll split marital assets 60-40, my favor. For custody, you get how. I keep Tong. And half the value of gifts you gave her gets converted to cash for me." Sliding the lawyer-prepared documents across the table, I added, "Object all you want. I've got all the time in the world to drag this out." Smirking at Luo Yin, I cooed, "How tragic. Your bastard child will wear that scarlet letter forever, doomed to be society's punching bag." Luo Yin would never settle for being a secret mistress. We've got money now. Hurry up and divorce her." They were indeed flush with cash. Half of their embezzled funds and illicit gains sat in Suyi's mother's account, the other half in Luo Yin's. This portion doesn't qualify as marital property, so I genuinely can't claim a share. "Fine, I'll sign." He was restless and couldn't sit still. Seems like that "monkey steals the peach" move I learned came in handy. I listed out our marital assets apart from the 100K cash in Suyi's account and his mother's allowance. Most of his spending went on Luo Yin. Meanwhile, my bank account balance stood at a mere 500 yuan. Sui was incredulous. "Where's your money?" I batted my eyes innocently. "Spent on bags, watches, and gold for you all. Kept all receipts. These don't count as gifts but marital assets." Watching his face turn beet red, I couldn't help but laugh. Gotta hand it to Luo Yin, she really knew how to spend. When dividing marital assets, I'll barely get 200 grand. She's ended up spending nearly $1 million because of this whole mess. I somehow got an extra 600 grand out of nowhere. What a saint, taking in that deadbeat and still turning a profit. Sui reluctantly sold off some profitable stocks and wired me the money within a month. The moment the money hit my account, I rushed straight to the civil affairs office without wasting a second. I showed up with 2 black-suited bodyguards while he paraded his mistress on his arm. Under the bizarre stares of our mismatched entourage, we finalized our divorce. Staring at the divorce papers, I finally let out a sigh of relief. 14. I'll never sacrifice my entire life again just because of moral blackmail. Luo Yin smugly clung to Su Yi's arm, taunting me with her eyes. You didn't know, did you? Brother Yi's stocks have multiplied several times over. Why don't you beg us? We might recommend a few for you. I scoffed coldly. With all his wealth now, what if he decides not to marry you? Wouldn't that be tragic? Don't end up losing both the man and the money. Now that'd be truly pathetic. A man who betrays marital vows is nothing but worthless trash lacking any integrity. Just as I expected, Luo Yin tightened her grip on Su Yi's arm. I pursed my lips teasingly. Perfect timing. You've got all your documents today. Why not make it official? I stood before them, watching the drama unfold like a spectator, unable to bear my sarcasm. Luo Yin actually dragged Su Yi off to get married. Tears, tantrums, and endless sobbing, watching them receive their marriage certificates. I clapped sarcastically. Perfect match, a bitch and a bastard. May you two stay miserably together forever. Outside, my cousin Jiangchen pulled up in a red sports car and handed me a bouquet of crimson roses. Congrats on your new beginning, sis. I strutted away under Su Yi and Luo Yin's jealous glares. Sis, giving those watches and gold to those scumbags is such a waste. I curled my lips into a cocky grin. They're all fakes, nothing to fuss over. I'm no fool. That was just bait to lure Su Yi into the trap. No way was I actually trying to please his family. The bags and watches were knockoffs from Guangzhou. Buy one get one free deals. The gold was real alright. Just gold-plated silver trinkets worth a few $100. A couple grand's worth of junk was enough to convince them I'd struck it rich. Perfect. Chalco will teach them a lesson, sis. I followed your advice and liquidated all my stocks before National Day, made tens of millions on this play. What's our next move? How about partnering with me in real estate brokerage? The 2007 bull market was winding down, while the property sector was taking off, entering its golden era of rapid expansion. Trust me, sis, I've got this. No, I messed up once before, but this time, I'm grateful for fate's blessing. Over this past year, aside from the initial 300K, I gradually sold off my shares in Guangzhou Shipyard International when they hit 70 yuan, made nearly 20 million in one go. Early this year, we sold my mom's old place for over $1 million and I gradually reinvested all the proceeds. Back in 2007, you could literally buy anything blindfolded and still profit. 15. It was just a matter of how much the prices would rise. I knew little about stocks but bought a few that were performing exceptionally well. By October, the balance in my account was nearing 50 million. I'd literally become an overnight multimillionaire. When my mother saw the numbers on the bank statement, she dragged me on an immediate pilgrimage to Mount Putua. I knelt devoutly before the Buddha, made offerings to the temple, and sponsored 10 underprivileged students through a relief website. Wealth should be paired with benevolence, and hearts inclined toward kindness. My mother had never been this well off before. She dragged my aunt and Tong around Shanghai every day. House hunting became their playground. I let them take the reins completely. Home isn't about the location. It's wherever your family gathers under one roof. I made time to revisit our old apartment. That apartment's about to be handed over to Wu Yingjun. I thought the place was empty. We'd agreed during the divorce that Sui would move his things out promptly. As I pushed the door open, I saw my ex-father-in-law cracking sunflower seeds and drinking baijiu in the dining room, while my once haughty ex-mother-in-law, with disheveled hair, was squatting on the floor picking up trash. 16. Her face was covered in bruises. Seeing our group enter, she covered her face with her hands and whispered, "Jiang Yu." Meanwhile, my ex-father-in-law started cursing. "Who the hell are you? Get out of my house." I slammed the contract on the table. "This house is sold. Handovers today. Time for you to get the hell out." My ex-father-in-law kicked my ex-mother-in-law behind the knees. "You lied to me." The two immediately started throwing punches right in front of me. From their screaming match, I gathered floods had destroyed ex-father-in-law's hometown. He'd hauled a burlap sack and sneaked into the city. When I saw my ex-mother-in-law shaking her but dancing in the square, I immediately slapped her and dragged her back home. Luoying couldn't stand her ex-mother-in-law's behavior, especially now that she'd hooked up with an abusive drunkard. She persuaded Sui to kick them both out. With nowhere to stay, they suddenly remembered my apartment. Thankfully I'd anticipated their antics. The rest I left to Wu Yingjun to handle. Every villain meets his match. As we were leaving, How cautiously peeked out from the house. I raised an eyebrow. It had been ages since Su Hao last called me mom. "What's this?" Didn't you say you didn't want me as your mom anymore? Found yourself a pretty auntie instead. A flicker of confusion crossed his face. Mom, why do you want sister but not me? Grandma says I'm the family heir, so why won't you even keep your money-losing burden? Mom, in my heart, you're both my children, neither more nor less important. But if I had to choose, I'd pick Tong Tong's kind and beautiful soul. My ex-mother-in-law yanked Hao Hao away, fearing I'd take him, Jiang Yu. Don't even think about walking off with Hao Hao. I pressed my lips together and crouched down. Hao Hao, do you want to come with me? As Su Hao's mother, it's my duty to teach him kindness. His big eyes welled up with tears as he gave a slight nod. I stood up and scribbled a phone number for them. Call if you need anything. Turning to leave the house, I took a deep breath, though the world may crumble. Children remain blameless. I couldn't bear to see my own flesh and blood stray from life's proper path. A year later, that long-awaited call finally came. My ex-husband Su Yi's weary voice came through. Jiang Yu, for old time's sake as husband and wife, lend me $1 million. No, $500,000 would do. I replied coldly, not happening. 200,000, and I'll sell Hao Hao to you. I went to find Su Yi with 200,000 in cash. The man who once basked in glory now wore clothes caked in dust. His once straight back was deeply hunched, his eyes dull and clouded as he nervously wrung his hands. Hao Hao crouched silently on the ground. Bruises covered his exposed arms. When he saw me, his white eyes welled up with tears as he stammered, Mom, I was wrong. I agreed. I flung the tote bag at Su Yi's feet, scooped up Hao Hao, and turned to leave without another word. Yeah. I'm sorry. Behind me, the man's voice dripped with remorse. If possible, for the sake of our 2 children, can we start over? Without turning back, I said icily, this isn't a recycling center. I don't take trash. From Hao Hao's account, my father-in-law accidentally killed my mother-in-law during a drunken rage. Domestic violence stems from marital conflicts, but murder doesn't. The father-in-law was arrested on the spot and imprisoned, leaving Hao Hao no choice but to live with Su Yi's family. Spoiled rotten by his grandmother since childhood, Su Hao gradually became obedient and sensible after Luo Yin disciplined him several times. Because he no longer had a mother to protect him, as the saying goes, a stepmother brings a stepfather. Luo Yin, resting at home during pregnancy, would vent her frustrations by scolding and hitting Hao Hao, making him fetch tea, bring water, and cut fruits. You're nothing but bad luck. You're the reason your grandmother died. What's the use of sons? I'll soon have my own child anyway. From now on, you're the older brother. Older brothers should always yield to their younger siblings. That day when water spilled, Luo Yin reached out to pinch Hao Hao but slipped on the wet patch instead. Her entire belly slammed heavily against the floor. Hao Hao stared blankly at Luo Yin writhing on the floor, frozen in place until the blood pooling beneath her stained the carpet crimson. Only then did he call the police. Officer, Auntie fell down. When Su Yi arrived at the hospital, Luo Yin's baby had already died in utero from umbilical cord detachment. The prolonged delay caused uterine rupture, forcing doctors to perform a hysterectomy, ending her chances of future pregnancies. Police reviewed home surveillance footage showing Luo Yin's abusive tendencies toward children, issuing her a formal warning that further tarnished her reputation. From that day onward, the bull market began hitting limit down. Su Yi's glory days didn't last long. Chalco's stock kept having its value while massive credit card debts came crashing down. Luo Yin had already been fired over the mistress scandal. To avoid shouldering family debts, she liquidated all valuables at home, took the money, and ran off to Hong Kong with a small-time renovation contractor. Before leaving, she also exposed Su Yi's embezzlement of company funds. His former employer took him to court. In the end, he liquidated all his stocks and scraped together what little remained, which couldn't even cover a tenth of the company's losses. He demanded 200 grand because he was planning to skip town, but I called the cops. In the car, Hao Hao pressed his cheek against my leg and whispered, Mommy, I know I was wrong. That day I deliberately didn't call 120. I didn't want a baby brother. But now I want to be Tong Tong's big brother. When the twins were born, Hao Hao was born first. He's the big brother. Tong Tong came later. She's the little sister. It's okay, sweetheart. Mommy forgives you. Children come into this world as blank slates. If anyone's to blame, it's us parents with our selfish desires. On the day of sentencing, I attended the hearing with my lawyer. Su Yi was ultimately convicted of corporate property embezzlement and misappropriation of public funds, receiving a combined 7-year sentence. When he spotted me in the gallery, an extraordinary light flashed in his eyes. Yeah. I knew you wouldn't give up on me. My lawyer produced the custody modification agreement. Sign it. Because of you, Our children can never enter civil service. I won't let them keep the Su surname. Jiang suits them better. His eyes darkened, lips trembling as his shaking hand signed the document. I regret it. I was wrong. He slapped himself hard in the witness stand, the sound echoing through the courtroom. Meanwhile, I was just thinking about where to take my family for celebration that evening. Sui was found dead in his cell not long after being imprisoned, acute myocardial infarction. In those sleepless midnight hours, he kept regretting why he hadn't sold all his stocks back in October. He could have remained a multimillionaire, luxury mansion, beautiful wife, everything one could desire. Epilogue. I claimed his body and collected his ashes. Back then, scattering ashes at sea was all the rage, a final taste of unshackled freedom. I generously picked him a picturesque beach where ocean breezes could carry his spirit freely. The following year in Hong Kong, I spotted Luo Yin in the red light district, fishnets, cigarette dangling, tussling with some John. Hey boss, we agreed on 200, where's my missing tenner? Hey gorgeous, I'm out of change this time, I'll come find you again. Through the swirling smoke, I glimpsed our past lives as she smirked. A fallen phoenix fares worse than a chicken, just some unloved wretch. Truth be told, if she'd lived my life instead, she'd have ended up a proper chicken indeed. The year my son Jiang Hao turned 8, I sent him to live with his soldier uncle. This is a mother's final act of kindness. Our mother-son bond was never strong to begin with. I can only hope he'll choose kindness in the future. My mom's new apartment is ready. I took Tong Tong with me to inspect the property with her. Walking down these familiar streets, as the car halted on Hunan Road, the dappled sunlight filtered through plane tree leaves, scattering into a galaxy of light. At the intersection of history and modernity, this solitary corner cradles perfect tranquility. My mother waved her hand triumphantly, laughing. We fought hard to get this place. Tong Tong took one look and adored it. Cost a fortune, over 40,000 per square meter. Spacious too. We bought Tong Tong 2 more units in Pudong. Cash isn't safe these days, but property, that's real security. Oh, my dear mother, Tong Tong is truly the leading lady of her own story. Thanks to my daughter's vision, I'm now living in an ultra-exclusive villa that'll be worth 300k per square meter in the future. Fortune truly favors the blessed. They'd never settle for an unlucky household. I planted a big kiss right on her cheek. Mommy's little lucky star. Tong Tong hugged me gently and said, Mommy is a phoenix reborn from ashes. Tong Tong's guardian angel. Sunlight broke through the gloomy sky, streaming into the villa's grand hall. My mother gushed like an excited toddler. Let's get an L-shaped sofa here. Green curtains for eye comfort. The master bedroom for my darling girl. Tong Tong gets this room. We'll decorate it like a princess suite. Tong Tong's clear voice chimed in. We need to save a room for Big Brother. How wonderful. Even though my marriage failed, I've still found happiness. Story 2. For a long time, my entrepreneur boyfriend and I subsisted on plain steamed buns in our rented apartment until one day, I saw his name on a list of young entrepreneurs. Not only was he the CEO of a rival company, but he was also worth billions. On my birthday, my boyfriend used a generic, unpackaged supermarket cake for my birthday cake. He inserted a candle into the small cake, smaller than my palm, that he had freed from its vacuum packaging, and turned off the lights, telling me to make a wish. I stared at the flickering candle in the dark. Eventually, I reached out and tousled his fuzzy hair, then vigorously rubbed his slightly coarse but pleasantly textured short hair. Wang Chenqing, this is what you bring for my birthday cake. Do you think you're being funny? In the dark, he grabbed my wrist and then simply pulled me into his embrace. But last year, when I ordered a cake for your birthday, you scolded me for wasting money. His voice carried a hint of hurt. This year, I didn't waste money. How good are these unpackaged French-style cakes? Cheap, economical, and we can eat them for 3 more days. 2. Me and my boyfriend, Wang Chenqing, we are known as the poor couple of Building 21, Unit 4 in our complex. Perhaps because I had once vigilantly watched over the fish sold by our neighbor, Wang Dajia, at the supermarket downstairs, so she always loudly proclaims in the hallways that I am a young person who's unambitious and only after cheap deals. I leaned on the sofa, trying to use my feet to adjust the oscillating fan. Suddenly, someone grabbed my ankle. Wang Chenqing held my ankle with one hand while adjusting the fan's angle with the other. Don't sit in the draft all day, you'll catch a cold. A cold? I tugged at my collar to show him, I'm sweating like this. And you're talking to me about catching a cold? He lifted his thin eyelids to look at me, and I felt that if it weren't for his handsome face, I'd have surely kicked him. So, women really are contradictory creatures. He gave me a supermarket cake for my birthday, and I was still mad, but I didn't say anything. I wanted him to figure out why on his own. I watched as he gently released my ankle and slowly moved closer. And those eyes, growing increasingly dim, after 5 years with Wang Qinqing. I know him too well. I quickly grabbed a cushion to shield my chest. Listen, Wang Qinqing, not today. I'm not in the mood. Suddenly, my wrist was pulled. When I opened my eyes, there was a small watch on it, quite pretty. 3. This really was the most beautiful watch I had ever seen. It had many small, diamond-like details that sparkled as I moved my hand. Of course, I didn't actually think they were real diamonds. I tapped the arm of the person next to me. Hey, how much was this watch? He glanced at the watch on my wrist and then replied, 200 or 300, bought it online. Oh, I nodded, turned off the lights to save electricity, leaving only the TV on. I admired my new watch in the flickering light of the TV. Its tiny, brilliant lights shimmering like a galaxy. Such a beautiful watch, and not even expensive. I was even more pleased. And I leaned over and kissed the corner of the mouth of the person next to me. He raised his eyebrows. And then, what happened next? Went along with the TV and the gently swaying fan. It didn't matter anymore. The next day, when I went to work, I wore that watch. It was a delicate lady's watch, adorned with tiny diamonds that sparkled brilliantly under the sunlight. My colleague, Xiao Lu, sitting next to me noticed it and playfully nudged my shoulder with a grin. Did your boyfriend give it to you? I nodded, though in truth, I'm quite the social butterfly. Most of my friends knew I had a boyfriend who was currently trying to start his own business. It looks really nice, must be expensive, right? I shook my head, about to say it was just 200 or 300 online. Then another sharp, piercing voice chimed in, not expensive. After all, it's a fake watch. I always felt that Lin Yuyu wasn't here to work, but rather to strut her stuff on a runway. As she approached, a strong scent of perfume wafted from her, flipping her hair. She showed us her phone. On the screen was a picture of a watch identical to the one on my wrist. The price tag underneath read, 28.59, 999 yuan. That price was something I'd have to count for a while to comprehend. Your poor boyfriend could never make that much money in his lifetime, could he? She glanced at me sideways. I looked down at my wristwatch and nodded. Right. This watch is really just 200 or 300, and the little diamonds might even be glass, but what can I do? My boyfriend only has 200 or 300, so he bought me this watch. He's faithful, and he treats me well. Wasn't your boyfriend the one who, in front of everyone last time, came in with his arms around 2 girls? Lin Yuyu's boyfriend is the son of one of our company's directors, a typical rich playboy, known for his flirtations, and Lin Yuyu had put in a lot of effort to latch onto him. My words evidently stung her. Her face alternated between pale and flushed. I don't even know where you get the nerve to wear a fake watch. You just love knockoffs, don't you? Isn't that disgusting? She was clearly flustered, but I wasn't one to back down. I'll wear whatever I want. It's none of your business. If you think it's disgusting, I'll wear 100 yuan knockoff tomorrow. I'll hang them on the wall, right in front of you. There's a saying, shamelessness is invincible. I think Lin Yuyu nearly choked with fury because of me. But perhaps it was fate playing tricks, because on my way home from work, I ran into Lin Yuyu again. At that moment, she looked as if she could almost hook her smile to the sky. Her boyfriend had come to pick her up in his convertible Maserati. Of course, that alone wouldn't have made her so triumphantly boastful. The key was, parked beside her boyfriend's sports car, was my boyfriend's little electric scooter. As she passed by, Lin Yuyu almost seemed to wish she could crush her high heels. Getting into the car, she even waved at me. Bye-bye, oh Lu Huan, you must have a long way to go on that little electric scooter. Hope it doesn't run out of power halfway. As I watched them drive off, I sat on the back seat of Wang Qinqing's little scooter. Someone's waist felt very comforting, and I suppose that was my only consolation right now. What's wrong? Wang Qinqing raised an eyebrow and asked me. I told him it was nothing, and asked him to keep riding. The evening breeze was actually quite soothing, and sometimes, the shadow of the towering skyscrapers can be truly awe-inspiring. But the real kicker, when I saw the traffic jam during rush hour, and Lin Yuyu and their sports car stuck in the middle of it, I couldn't help but laugh. Clearly, they had been stuck there impatiently for quite some time, so, I waved at them from the back seat of my little electric scooter. I threw her words back at her. Bye-bye, we sped off. Riding through the streets, I laughed so hard I was bending forward and backward. Wang Qinqing, slightly exasperated, told me to sit properly. Do you know, as the wind whistled past, I wrapped my arms around his waist and spoke to him. There are 2 types of people I hate in this life. One is the rich, the other is liars. Suddenly, the electric scooter braked sharply. and I bumped into his back, rubbing my nose. I pinched his waist in annoyance. "What's up?" The man paused for a moment, then shook his head. "It's nothing, the light bulb at home was broken." As I looked up, he skillfully climbed onto the chair and the dining table to replace the bulb that wouldn't light up. "Wan Ching, tell me." I fiddled with the packaging of the new bulb, aimlessly nagging him. "Do you think rich people are superior?" As his pale fingers screwed in the bulb, I suddenly remembered, at the beginning of our relationship, he also knew nothing about these things. One thunderous night, the power went out suddenly, and we huddled in the corner of the living room, only to realize the next day that it was just the circuit breaker that hadn't been switched on. Since then, he had started learning to fix these things. After he fixed the light, he nodded for me to turn it on. I pressed the switch, and after a flicker or two, the living room was bright again. The man jumped down. He took a couple of sips from the glass I had just used. His Adam's apple moved up and down, quite seductively. Seeing that I kept staring at him, he sighed and responded, "Don't overthink it, everyone is equal." "Oh, then Wang Ching." He glanced at me with a lift of his thin eyelids as he drank water. "When are we getting married?" He almost spit out his water. I knew my timing was off. He was starting a business, short on money, and my mother said, "Not looking for a perfect match, but at least the man I marry should be able to afford a beef noodle breakfast costing 20 yuan every morning, right now, let alone beef noodles. Even a bowl of plain vegetable noodles for 7 or 8 yuan was a consideration for us." Huan. About this, he habitually thought over it, tapping his fingers on the table. "I need to prepare." Yes, he needed to prepare. And I actually have a lot of faith in Wan Ching, although he hasn't achieved much in the past few years and has been poor alongside me. He was a brilliant student in college, a well-known talent in our school. Even that stern professor affirmed that he would achieve great things in the future. And so, the matter of marriage was once again put on hold. Before going to sleep, I flipped through the calendar. Wan Ching and I had been together for over 5 years. But we still hadn't met each other's parents. I curled up in the soft, cozy bed, calculating how much money I could save after everyday expenses. His backpack was almost worn through, and I wanted to get him a new one before the year was out. Wan Ching starts work earlier than I do. As I stirred my thin porridge with chopsticks, tousling my hair, he hugged me from behind as usual and kissed me. He kisses me in a different spot each day. Today it was on the tip of my ear. He should have left after the kiss, but he lingered, leaning on the table for quite some time. After a pause, he asked, Huan, do you really hate liars that much?" Sometimes his questions come out of nowhere. I nodded and tugged at his tie, squinting at him. "Wan Ching, are you hiding something from me?" His gaze was deep. When I pulled him closer, he looked at me without restraint. He smiled like a sly fox. "No, wifey. He's definitely hiding something, but I couldn't figure out what." Like usual, I slid into my office seat just before the clock-in deadline, but today, there was something unusual on my desk, a gift box containing a lady's handbag. No one answered when I asked whose it was. Lin Yuyu, who was quite arrogant the day before, now looked at me as if I were her sworn enemy. I was utterly confused. Then someone gently tapped on my desk. "Hi, I picked this bag for you, hope you like it." The one propping on the desk and smiling at me with a lifted fringe was Lin Yuyu's boyfriend, a company executive and a rich second generation. Lin Yuyu looked so annoyed. It was as if he wasn't her boyfriend at all. But my impression of him could be summed up in 9 words. The company's foolish rich second generation. Judging his intelligence by human standards wouldn't be appropriate. He'd be better measured against a primate. Clearly, something went wrong yesterday on that Maserati. He took an interest in me, who was sitting on the back of an electric scooter. My day was extremely annoying. It seemed wherever I went, he had to follow, even saying, "Woman, you've caught my attention." When I came out of the ladies' room and saw him still standing there with his arms crossed, I couldn't take it anymore. "Mr. Ching, I'm sorry, but I have a boyfriend." "Oh, but you're not married yet, are you?" I rolled my eyes at him, but he kept talking calmly. "There's a dinner party tonight. Join me." I ignored him and walked away in my high heels. It seems like one unpleasant thing follows another. This afternoon, Wan Ching told me he had a dinner party and wouldn't be home for dinner. I sent him a sulking cat emoji in annoyance, and he replied with a puppy emoji that seemed to brace for a scolding. Suddenly, I heard the sound of a car horn behind me. A car enthusiast friend once told me that you could tell the price range of a sports car just by its horn. But I thought the sports car Chin drove was the worst. The rich second generation who had been bothering me all day was now slowly driving his sports car behind me. didn't I tell you to join me at a dinner party? The sun had set and he was still wearing sunglasses. I thought he must be out of his mind. Miss Lou, I can't help it if you don't respond to me, but I don't want to get fired, do you? As I settled into the passenger seat of his Maserati, I was reminded of last night's conversation with Wan Chin. Are the wealthy really a cut above the rest? For someone like me, gripped by the throat of money, the answer is yes. I thought Chin Chen was going to take me to some work-related dinner, but apparently, I underestimated just how shameless he could be. He brought me to a private club. The lobby was quite upscale, but my impression of such places was only that the prices were ludicrously high for fools to pay. And luxury cars came and went as if they didn't cost a penny. A few pretentious garden scenes were set up, and they charged you an exorbitant fee as if it were a tax on your intelligence. However, it wasn't my wallet being drained. No matter the cost, I was indifferent. I had the misfortune of witnessing how a rich young heir could spend money like water, and soon realized, Chin Chen probably wanted to get me drunk, but he likely didn't know. I've been able to outdrink adults since I was 15 during New Year's visits. I picked up the bottle, ready for more, when I caught sight of a circle of men slumped around. Chin Chen was slurring something, arm around his cronies. Guard the drink, tisk, not a single one who could really hold their liquor. I stood up, looking for the restroom. The club had rented out an entire courtyard. It looked small from the outside but was actually quite complex inside. At first, I couldn't find my way. Later, I couldn't keep walking, because I saw someone who looked strikingly similar to Wan Chin. I feared my vision was blurred from drinking too much, so I paused and followed him. He was with two other men. I took a deep breath. At our company's annual meeting, we always invited important figures, and I remembered Li He because he was young, and he managed his family's company efficiently. At that moment, this distinguished man was bending slightly to light Wan Chin's cigarette. I stepped forward to see if it really was Wan Chin. I bumped into a small ornamental pile of pebbles. The noise wasn't loud, but the courtyard was very quiet at night. Suddenly, I found myself locking eyes with the three of them, as I confirmed that the man in the suit and tie, who was being nodded and bowed at, was indeed Wan Chin. He immediately spat out his cigarette and quickly passed it to someone next to him. He explained in one breath, "I'm not smoking, honey." It was him. The person next to him almost dropped his lighter in shock. Then Wan Chin patted his shoulder and bowed his head with a smile. "Mr. Li, thank you for the cooperation. I'll contact you on Monday. I need to take my wife home." In the taxi, I slowly recalled the scenes and details of what had just happened. I suddenly turned to look at the person next to me. "Wan Chin, are you?" He sat up straight, looking me in the eye. "Are you blackmailing Mr. Li? Why do I feel like he's a bit afraid of you? We shouldn't be doing anything illegal or disorderly." The man seemed to breathe a sigh of relief and smiled with raised eyebrows. "No, honey, I didn't," he reassured me. "Mr. Li is a nice person, quite enthusiastic and polite." I always felt that his smile was fake, though I couldn't pinpoint exactly what about it seemed insincere. As we got out of the car, he held onto my wrist as we walked. From the entrance of the residential area to our building, there was a bit of a distance. The streetlights cast patches of light on the somewhat cluttered path. He seemed distracted today. Juan. It was only after we entered the house that he firmly grasped my wrist. "We'll have to go on a business trip in a few days, and I'll be gone for quite a while. If you need anything while I'm away, just call me." I nodded and hummed in acknowledgement. That night, he hugged me from behind and slowly kissed my neck. After 5 years together, some things seemed to be communicated with just a shift in gaze. Just like Wan Chin shouldn't have been at that private club, nor should I have been there. I don't know what he thought, because he never asked. I just felt that night, he was a bit mad and quite restless. Wan Chin left. I had packed his bags for him and drove him to the airport. Before he left, he leaned down to kiss my forehead. The days that followed were rather uneventful. Chin Chen had shifted his focus elsewhere, and my ongoing verbal spats with Lin Yuyu continued. She seemed to enjoy targeting my lack of wealth, but it didn't matter to me. I'm not afraid of those who have more when I have nothing to lose. Being called poor wasn't new to me. Even the lady selling fish next door had more bite than her. I video called Wan Chin every day. He seemed to always stay in a very cheap motel. I suggested he stay in a nicer hotel, but he refused. He said, "How can I justify staying in an expensive place when my wife is living in a rental? Living alone can sometimes be more economical than living as a couple." As the end of the year approached, work became busier. Not only that, but Lin Yuyu had finally managed to get close to our company's supervisor. Thanks to her, a lot of her work started piling up on me, so much so that when I got home, I had neither the time nor the energy to cook, and despite the cost, I had to order takeout. Then, something quite troubling happened these past few days. My takeout kept getting stolen. In our complex, the takeout orders were left at a designated spot near the parcel lockers. Recently, my orders had repeatedly gone missing. I asked in our building's group chat if anyone had taken the wrong order by mistake, but no one responded. I also spoke to the property management about installing cameras at the pickup spot, but they used the excuse of unpaid management fees to suggest I pay for the installation myself. I asked in the group chat several times if someone had taken my order, and suddenly one of the residents snapped at me. They accused me of making a big deal over a small amount of money, constantly fussing over a takeout worth just a few bucks. Frustrated and angry, I video called Wang Chenqing. He was still in that rundown motel, talking to me in the corridor while a drunk couple staggered past him. He asked what was wrong, if I had been upset by something. For the first time, I felt like I couldn't see a future, like the dark corridor behind him. He was already so tired, how could I burden him with my grievances? So, I forced the most natural smile I could muster and told him I was fine. The next day, when I ordered takeout again, I specifically asked the restaurant to make it extremely spicy, the spicier the better. That evening, when I went to pick up my food, sure enough, I saw someone taking my order again. He seems to be a habitual offender, almost as if he deliberately wanted to upset me by only taking my food delivery. To be honest, when someone took my food delivery, I felt a slight thrill of revenge. However, later that evening, someone spoke up in the group chat. I never expected it to be the person who had ridiculed me earlier for fussing over a few bucks worth of food delivery. Who the hell put insanely spicy stuff in the food delivery? My kid ended up in the hospital with acute gastroenteritis because of it. Have you no morals or decency? Whoever loaded it with chili, you better show yourself and compensate me. He didn't mention at all that he had stolen the food delivery. Honestly, even if I'm usually calm, I was so furious at that moment that I felt like I could explode. In a fit of anger, I blurted out in the group chat that I had ordered the food and I was the one who made it insanely spicy, specifically to punish the thief who stole it. As a result, that resident added me on WeChat. He immediately sent me a QR code. The medical bills for my child are 5,800 yuan, plus 4,200 yuan for emotional distress. That's a total of 10,000 yuan. Compensate me. I won't ask you for compensation for my child's missed school days and other miscellaneous expenses. Honestly, I've never seen such a shameless family. The next day, that woman was causing a scene at my doorstep with her child. She accused me of being heartless and premeditated. She argued that her child was just playing around, that it wasn't really stealing, yet I had punished him so severely. He's just a child. Do you have to be so harsh? Her finger was pointed right at me, while the child cried pitifully on the side. Just for stealing a bit of your food delivery, you put so much spice in it. Do you realize that's illegal? Compensate us for the medical bills or we'll sue you. Rubbing my throbbing forehead, the person in front of me was clearly being unreasonable. Not to mention, how could a child continue eating something so spicy without spitting it out unless the family, looking to save money, forced him to eat it? They even threatened to sue me. But I really didn't have time to play these games with them. These days have been non-stop. Lin Yuyu seems to think I'm easy to bully, dumping nearly all her work on me, but I can't quit my job or voice my concerns. At a time like this, without money, I might not even be able to make ends meet. At 9:30 p.m., I got home and stared at the lawyer's notice stuck to my door. They really sued me. The charges were for administering a hazardous substance and excessive self-defense. My prior messages in the WeChat group, which hinted at revenge and intention, were used against me. I opened the lawyer's notice and read each page. My mother always said I was impulsive and too emotional. Now, I really regret it. I should have just said in the group chat that I like my food insanely spicy. Today, I hid the lawyer's notice before video calling Wang Chenqing, but for some reason, seeing his face, feeling the distance between us, a wave of grievances overwhelmed me. I didn't feel like crying when I received the lawyer's notice. I wasn't even upset knowing I couldn't afford a lawyer to fight the lawsuit. But seeing Wang Chenqing, hearing his voice, I just felt so wronged. At first, I could still talk about daily stuff with a smile, but as we talked, I started crying, unable to stop my tears. He kept calling my name over the phone. I hastily wiped away my tears before hanging up the phone. The next day, my boss asked me to work overtime. It was the first time I refused, the first time I just lay in bed, wanting to do nothing. I felt like I was about to be fired, and suddenly, I felt overwhelmed and indifferent. I couldn't stop thinking about the issues at hand, gritting my teeth. I wanted to confront that family, to argue. It was my food delivery that was stolen repeatedly. I was the one left hungry. Why should I have to pay? But I couldn't even afford a lawyer. At 11:30 in the morning, someone violently knocked on my door. I opened it to find a child standing there. It was the child who had been hospitalized because of the spiciness of the food in my delivery. Upon seeing me, he spit at me and harshly cursed. "Animal, you made me go to the hospital." His parents were not far off, staring at me. "Where's the money for my kids' medical bills? I don't want to settle this privately. See you in court where you'll have to pay even more." They threatened me early in the morning. I took a deep breath, but before I could respond, a kid suddenly bumped into me. The child was as strong as a young bull, causing me to lose my balance and bump my head on the door frame. My head throbbed painfully. "Who told you to hurt me? I'll kill you." I saw his clenched fist aiming for my face and instinctively closed my eyes, but the punch never landed. Instead, I heard a familiar voice say, "You know you're committing assault, right?" I couldn't believe it. Wang Chenqing, who was thousands of miles away in another city just yesterday, was now standing in front of me, holding the child by the collar. The kid was wailing and cursing. His words shockingly fell for his age. The parents, who had initially been spectators, rushed over frantically. They went to protect their child, but Wang Chenqing had already lifted him up first. "What are you doing? What are you going to do to my baby?" The parent was clearly panicked but relentless. "I want you to pay for the medical expenses. What dare you do to my baby?" But Wang Chenqing responded calmly, his voice steady and his hand gradually tightening. "Medical expenses, sure, 10,000 for a fracture. So, can I hit him?" In the hospital outside the ward, no one expected Wang Chenqing to actually follow through. The parents were crying and cursing, threatening to sue us. Wang Chenqing leaned lazily against the wall, completely indifferent to the noise. His clothes were a bit messy. I had called him yesterday, and he had rushed over this morning. His tie was askew, and I reached out to straighten it, which caused the parents next to us to grumble discontentedly, accusing us of colluding and being morally corrupt. In reality, Wang Chenqing hadn't hit hard at all. Even the doctors joked that if he had been any later, the child would have been able to run around. Yet the parents made a huge scene, and the child wailed loudly. It seemed that finally annoyed by the noise, Wang Chenqing looked up at them and said, "Is it just money you want? How much?" The woman seemed stunned by his presence for a second or two, then, perhaps realizing that we were not wealthy, she grew more confident. 200,000. I heard someone beside me scoff softly. 200,000. Is that all you ask for your only chance to scam someone? The woman, clearly thinking the same, confirmed, "Yes, I want 200,000. Can you afford it? Everyone knows you're the poorest in this building. Your bank account number," Wang Chenqing said, interrupting her impatiently. The woman scoffed and rolled her eyes disdainfully. As she recited her bank account number, Wang Chenqing kept his head down, apparently busy with something on his phone. Seconds later, the woman's expression turned particularly colorful, as if Wang Chenqing had indeed transferred that much money. "Once you receive the money, don't bother my girlfriend, or you might consider trying to mess with her." Wang Chenqing's tone suggested he could easily cover the medical expenses. I was dragged all the way here by Wang Chenqing. He seems very familiar with this place, but suddenly, I have many questions about him. "Wang Chenqing, where did you get so much money? Did you max out your credit card? Where are you taking me? It seems we're in a hospital's underground parking garage, but we originally came here by taxi." "Huan, actually, I am very wealthy." He held my wrist and suddenly spoke to me with utmost seriousness. I forced a smile, trying to keep my tone light. "Haha, what are you talking about all of a sudden?" But the next second, I saw the headlights of a Ferrari parked in a nearby corner flash twice, and Wang Chenqing was holding car keys in his hand. He had always told me that the Ferrari key he carried was a lighter. In high school, I had a classmate from a wealthy family whose brother drove this type of sports car. It was my first time in a luxury sports car, and I thought I would never get a second chance in my life. The interior of the car is not very spacious, and after getting in, we both fell into a prolonged silence. I didn't know how to start asking. Wang Chenqing was leaning over the steering wheel, his head buried in his arms. It took a long while before I heard him speak. "This car is mine. And this hospital, it's also owned by my family, perhaps." This is the most absurd scene in the world. My boyfriend of 5 years, whom I thought was penniless, tells me he is actually very rich. What did I actually say to him that day? I said, "Wang Chenqing, stop joking. I said. It's okay if you don't have money, we can earn it, I said. No way, you couldn't have lied to me for so long, you couldn't have. The watch I gave you last time is worth over 2 million. You can check the official website or get it appraised. My smile was strained. Frozen on my face, the lighting in the underground parking was dim, and the incandescent light fell into his deep gray eyes. After a long while, I finally found my voice. Why did you hide it from me for so long? Do you remember when we met at the English corner in college? You said then that you hated rich people the most. The person in front of me lowered his eyes, his voice sounding as if it might break at any moment. At first, I just thought saying I was poor would make it easier to get close to you, but later, I didn't know how to untangle the lie. So you've been lying to me for 5 years, Wan Chin-ching. I wanted to look him in the eyes, but he wouldn't meet my gaze. Are you stupid? I grabbed his shoulder, wanting to hit him. But when I actually raised my hand, I couldn't bring myself to do it. I rested my forehead against his chest, realizing my voice was soft and hoarse. Last spring, when my gastritis was acting up, you told me you were busy with work. I never told you, I said. In February this year, we ran out of money at home and for 2 weeks, we lived on plain porridge together. Just now, when you sent that boy to the hospital, do you know how scared I was? I was terrified that another lawyer's letter might show up at our door, scared that I might never see you again. Big young master, is it fun to play poor? Is it fun to spin me around in circles with your lies? Wan Chin-ching, let me out of the car. I went to pull on the car door, but he had locked it before I could. After 5 years together, he knew me so well. I bet he's thought 1,000 times about how he would handle being confronted. Huan, you said you hate rich people. You hate liars too. I'm sorry, I'm both. I'm sorry, I don't want to let you go. 17, when I was with Wan Chin-ching, we actually argued quite a lot, but it was always fiery, never like this. It turned into a cold war. It was really just me ignoring him, while he would send me dozens of messages every day. I used to think that a cold war was the beginning of the end for couples, but creating a rift with Wan Chin-ching, it seemed impossible. Stop blocking me, my dear. It's the last phone number I have. If you block this one, I'll have to use my grandmother's, and she really wants a great-grandson. She's got a lot of opinions about me. On my way home from work, he sent me a message from a new number. I should have realized he was wealthy earlier. The morning news screen I passed every day once reported that he was a distinguished representative of the city's young entrepreneurs, but I thought it was just someone with the same name. I couldn't help it. I replied to him, then hurry up and give her a great-grandson. He replied almost instantly, if you don't want me, where would I get a great-grandson from? This man had stopped pretending altogether. Not only did he change luxury cars daily to chase after me, but he also started to fill my rental with high-end furniture. Oh right, it wasn't actually a rental. He had bought the house a long time ago. Technically, he was my landlord. That's why I hate rich people. On my way home, a quirky rabbit doll blocked my path. When I moved left, it moved left. When I moved right, it moved right. Finally, he thrust a bouquet into my arms, with a sparkling diamond ring at its center. What are you doing, Wan Chin-ching? I tiptoed and lifted the headpiece off, revealing his familiar face. It was quite hot in summer, and inside the headpiece, it was stifling. His forehead was covered in sweat, sticking to his damp hair. Proposing, he replied without hesitation. You're proposing. Before I could finish, he leaned on me. The bulky costume was so warm, just being close to it made me feel hot. I think I'm having a heat stroke. Wife, quick, take me to your place. 18. The air conditioning at home was something Wan Chin-ching had insisted on installing. I turned it on for the first time. He sprawled on the sofa, looking like he had no intention of leaving for centuries. I took some ice water out of the fridge for him. Sitting across from him, Wan Chin-ching, my dad, died when I was 6. He was an engineer, and one time while inspecting a construction site, he was killed by steel and concrete that fell from the sky. Later, it was discovered that there were problems with the construction quality because the boss had skimped on material costs. My family tried to hold him accountable, but our efforts were in vain every time. He managed to settle everything with money. That's why I despise rich people. This was actually the first time I talked about my family matters with Wan Chin-ching. It seems that before this, neither of us really cared much about each other's family situations. Sitting across from him, I thought this was the greatest distance between us. Yet, he still leaned over the coffee table to ruffle my hair. I know, in his eyes, there was only the light of deep summer and dawn. That boss was already put in jail. He had done many bad things before. Getting him arrested was easy. I opened my eyes wide. He knew. When can I marry you, my dear? He asked me, tilting his head, not very seriously, which extinguished the slight surprise that had just risen in my heart. Wait until I'm as rich as you, then you can marry me. He opened his eyes wide, a bit at a loss. Juan, I can wait for you, but, with your current income, you'd have to start working from the Warring States period. Monday morning. I dragged my feet into the office. I was greeted by Lin Yuyu's piercing laugh. Lu Huan, you're late on your first day of work. Don't you want this job? I stared at her face, made up meticulously, and nodded. She seemed oblivious to the changes that had happened in the company. Indeed, we low-level employees are often the last to know anything. She walked up to me, lifted her wrist to show me her watch. See, this is a real watch. It cost 70 or 80,000. Far more prestigious than the street-style trash your boyfriend gave you, Lu Huan. I'm telling you, I'm about to get a promotion. She clung to my cubicle divider, very close to me. You're getting promoted. I was somewhat surprised. She flicked her long hair. Yes, managerly said I'm capable. Completely different from you idiots. Oh, right. She had hooked up with the manager a few months ago, and now, it seemed she finally had some tangible results. It's just a pity, Lu Huan. You can now call me Sister Lin. That way, when I become your boss, I might even be kind to you. I saw her desk piled with gifts, probably from people who knew she was about to be promoted and were sucking up to her. I shook my head, ignoring her. Hey, she got angry and knocked on the glass partition of my cubicle. Ah, Sister Lin, don't get angry with such people. Exactly. I think he just doesn't want to work anymore. Previously, not so many people sided with Lin Yuyu. But now that she was gaining power, the number of sycophants had increased dramatically. I want you to kneel and apologize to me. She suddenly made an extremely unreasonable demand. It seemed her head was about to be spoiled by flattery. Before I could reply to her, our manager knocked on the door and informed us that a meeting was about to start. Damn, did you hear? Our company has been bought out. What? That's so sudden. No wonder they called us all in early this morning. The new boss is quite generous. I heard he bought the company outright without even haggling over the price. Who is it? We'll see soon enough. The new boss. As I walked into the meeting room following the crowd, someone bumped into me harshly. Lin Yuyu was glaring at me fiercely. You and your broke, failed entrepreneur boyfriend better prepare to leave your jobs. I locked eyes with her for a second or two and told her, that's not going to happen. Why not? Her smirk froze on her face in an instant. After the former leader finished speaking and bowed, he invited the new leader to come up and speak. Wang Qinqing straightened his tie and stepped up to the podium. That man, our new boss, was also the one who kept me in bed this morning and made me late. Later, Wang Qinqing told me about all the things he had done while pretending to be a poor man over the past 5 years. For instance, he'd tell me he was taking the bus while he was actually boarding his private jet, or how every birthday gift he got me over the years was worth no less than $1 million, or how all our household items were custom-made, yet he lied that he bought them at a regular department store. Later on, the person who had been stealing our deliveries thought Wang Qinqing was rich and tried to extort more money from him. Wang ended up countersuing him, causing that person to lose a significant amount of money. That person and his family wailed and pleaded at my doorstep until Wang called a couple of bodyguards to remove them. I never saw that family again and I have no idea what methods he used. Later, Wang Qinqing became my boss and started increasing my salary like crazy. He tried to use various reasons to make my wealth catch up to his. I told him no, I wanted to earn it myself. He silenced me with his words over 3 nights. His voice was low and husky as he spoke close to my ear. There are many ways to make money, like, you can also claim from me, like, become my wife, and what's mine is yours. Story 2, people always said Zhou Qinchuan was indifferent and aloof, but he pursued me like a dog for 10 years, until I was pushed into a raging fire. He didn't hesitate to abandon his fortune worth hundreds of millions and followed me into the inferno. Reborn into this life, I decided not to be the bad woman who kept him hanging, and instead devoted myself wholeheartedly to treating him well. Unfortunately, it seems he was reborn too. Lin Huan, do you still want to treat me like a dog like in your past life? I was cornered by him, forced to sign a divorce agreement. He said he would never want me in this lifetime, absolutely never. 1. When I was 11, someone cruelly broke 5 of my fingers. From that moment, I vowed to become someone at the pinnacle of this world, by any means necessary, without scruples. Later, I did many wrong things and eventually, I was retaliated against and pushed into a fire. As I was being swallowed by the flames, I thought of nothing but then, a white figure burst into my view and held me tight. It was Zhou Qingchuan, my husband, the man who loved me so deeply. A man without any blemishes in his life except for me. As we turned to ash, I thought, if there is another life, I swear I'll dedicate my heart and soul to only being good to him. 2. This is the divorce agreement. Sign it. The flickering lights made my thoughts swirl. The man standing opposite lowered his eyes, hiding the coldness in his gaze. Zhou Qingchuan, don't be like this. I tried to grab his hand, his veins throbbed, and he quickly withdrew his hand. This was the first hour and 41 minutes of my rebirth. Suddenly, I felt an inexplicable sense of relief. Zhou Qingchuan finally realized I was a bad woman who deceived him out of his money and emotions. He didn't want me anymore. 3. I sat in a cake shop, looking through the thin glass, watching two figures swaying in the opposite school building. Zhou Qingchuan surely didn't know I was secretly watching him explain a problem to that girl, who was nearly clinging to his sleeve. Yes. In this life, Zhou Qingchuan should know who is kind and who is innocent, but still, I propped up my chin and sent a message to that girl. Xiaomiao, how are you seducing your brother-in-law? 4. Lin Xiaomiao is my younger sister. To be precise, she is the real daughter, and I am the fake one. I was picked up by Lin's mother on a stormy day when I was 12. Everyone thought it was a coincidence, but it wasn't. To make Lin's mother find me pitiful on that rainy day, I deliberately broke my own leg. I wanted glory and wealth, to be above everyone else, to never taste that bone-deep humiliation again. When Lin Xiaomiao was 16, she was found and brought back to the Lin family. She was always kind, innocent, and pure. The things I had to break my bones to achieve, she obtained without doing anything. I hated her. I wondered why she didn't have to fall into the mire and taste the pain. 5. I am such a wicked and bad woman. So, in my past life, I suffered a lot, perhaps. Lin Xiaomiao was really like what those people described. She was like a goddess, so I must have angered the gods. In this life, the only person who loved me also abandoned me. I curled up on the sofa, staring at the divorce agreement on the coffee table. Zhou Qingchuan, are you coming home tonight? This message lying in my phone had gone unanswered for 4 whole hours. Zhou Qingchuan's disposition was always indifferent. His friends always complained that he is as cold as ice, but in my past life, I never felt that way. To me, he was like my dog. He would come whenever he smelled me, always rubbing against me, ready to hold my hand the moment it was free. Forget not replying to messages. If I said one thing, he would respond eagerly with 10. But now, a message popped up, and I thought it was from him. I hurried to check, but it wasn't. It was from Lin Xiaomiao, a message accompanied by a picture. Sister, I didn't mean to seduce your husband. I just want to help manage our father's company. So your husband was just introducing me to some people. In the photo, the girl stood next to him with a charming smile. They looked like a perfect match. I must have called Zhou Qingchuan a dozen times. He didn't pick up, and eventually, he just blocked me. Actually, Zhou Qingchuan was never good with social niceties. He was all about academia. In my past life, to take some shares of my father's company from Lin Xiaomiao, I asked him to help me win over those in the pharmaceutical industry. He did it without a word of complaint. I never considered that he was a professor from a prestigious university, too dignified to bow down and beg favors from those people. I only remember one incident from my past life. I was discussing a partnership and got drunk, so I called him to pick me up. The private room was filled with influential figures, and as I leaned against the sofa, I watched his pale figure approach step by step. Come here, calling him over as if teasing a dog. A highly respected medical professor, a man who never lowered his chin in his daily life, being joked about by me in public like that must have felt exhilarating at the time. Everyone thought he would storm out, but what did Zhou Qingchuan do then? He walked up to me step by step, then he naturally squatted down and grasped my ankle. He adjusted my dangling high heel, looking up. His eyebrows seemed like a gentle mural. It's getting colder tonight, don't catch a cold, Huan. He liked calling me that, but after being reborn, he never called me that again. I'm a light sleeper, so I woke up the moment he came home. I lay there, wanting to see what he would do seeing me completely unguarded, but he just walked past me, not even willing to cover me with a blanket. I sat up and threw the divorce papers at his back. The man paused, his spine attractively visible. Don't damage it. If I have to draft it again, you won't get as much. Under the moonlight, I sat there watching him, his tone calm, a shadow of a cloud hid in his pupils, mixed with obscure coldness. I won't sign. I stared at him intently. He seemed to expect it, nodding. Okay, then we'll go to court. Zhou Qingchuan, you bastard. I lunged at him, trying to grab him, but he subdued me easily, under the curved moonlight. He pinned me on the couch, his hand gripped my neck, not gently at all. I bit the base of his thumb, he seemed not to feel the pain, but suddenly, he let go. A gentle touch brushed across my cheek. "So you can cry too." He left these cold and ambiguous words behind, leaving me alone in the living room. I pressed my eyes shut tightly, as if that would stop the tears from spilling out. "Don't leave me behind." I made a vow when I was 10, never to say those words again. I refused to sign the divorce papers. The next day, Zhou Qingchuan withdrew from all collaborations related to me. The Zhou family owns a significant part of the medical industry, and he is a top scholar in this field. I admit, in my previous life, I married him for profit. I knew he didn't want me anymore, but still, when I found out he had shifted all the projects to collaborate with Lin Xiaomiao, my heart felt a dull pain, although I also felt this was just. In my previous life, he truly saw through me. Lin Xiaomiao was so pure and clean. Unlike me, who was accustomed to achieving goals through dirty means, his withdrawal from the collaboration served as a warning to others in the field, and suddenly, I found myself completely isolated. I decided to try and win Zhou Qingchuan over again. "Zhou Qingchuan, are you at school? I made some lunch. Can I bring it over?" I didn't dare to hope that he still had feelings for me, but I genuinely hoped he could remember our past and not be too ruthless. Staring at my phone, which showed no response, I felt my face thickening with shame. After yesterday's quarrel, when it came to matters of benefit, I still had to beg. I planned to cook him a delicious meal and deliver it personally. Then I realized a problem. I had no idea what Zhou Qingchuan liked to eat. On the contrary, he probably knew my likes and dislikes by heart, as feeding me all sorts of delicacies was his greatest obsession in his previous life. I wasn't that delicate, but I enjoyed being capricious in front of him. "Zhou Qingchuan, this noodle is too hard." "Zhou Qingchuan, who would eat such soft noodles?" "Zhou Qingchuan, I don't like spicy food." "Zhou Qingchuan, when did you start cooking so blandly?" He only got angry with me once. His dark eyebrows and eyes stared at me intensely, his tone cold and serious. "Huan, do you think I will always stand by your side?" I looked down at my manicured nails and told him, "Then you can leave." That was my response. And he really did leave. In sub-zero weather, he stormed out without his coat, probably fuming with anger. Around evening, I sent him a message. "Zhou Qingchuan, I miss you." Within moments, the door was opened. He suddenly pulled me into his arms, the cold air mixing with his warmth, his tall nose pressed against my neck, and I heard him say, "Yes, I will always stand by your side." You see, training Professor Zhou in my previous life was even simpler than training a dog. The third time I cut my hand until it bled, staring at the boiling unknown substance in the pot. I snapped back from my memories, realizing that I was not talented in cooking. I ended up ordering takeout from Linchuan Pavilion, and transferred it into my own thermos. After all, there wasn't much difference between home-cooked and takeout, probably. "Sorry, sister, I didn't know you also brought lunch for Teacher Zhou. He has already eaten the meal I made." Lin Xiaomiao stood in front of me, visibly flustered and panicking. "Call him brother-in-law." I smiled at her, noticing her hands tighten within her sleeves. "Zhou Qingchuan." I stood in front of the man who was eating his meal, head bowed, ignoring me. I took the chopsticks from his hand and replaced the lunchbox in front of him with mine. He stared at the dish for a moment before finally fixing his deep, dark eyes on me. "Look." I extended my hand, covered in band-aids, towards him. "I got these cuts while cooking for you. It took me a long time. Won't you eat my cooking?" I met his gaze calmly, yet it felt as if I was on the verge of shattering. Finally, he sighed. "Lin Huan, this dish looks exactly like the ones from Lin Chuange. Did you learn it from them?" I pretended not to understand the teasing in his words and decided to just let everything go. "Zhou Qingchuan, just tell me if you will eat it or not." It seemed like whenever I got angry, he would soften and coax me. I was used to this, but I had forgotten that this wasn't the same as our past lives. Yet, he still bowed his head and slowly ate the seafood congee in front of him, obediently, just like the Zhou Qingchuan of our past life who would do anything I asked. After finishing, he watched me as I bent over for the first time to clean up the lunchbox. "Lin Huan," he called my name, clear and refreshing like a stream. "I'm allergic to seafood, after 2 lifetimes. You still can't remember?" Shocked, I looked up at him. His usually pale wrist was now noticeably red and rashy, plainly visible to me. "Is torturing me to death the only thing that makes you happy?" Zhou Qingchuan had a severe seafood allergy, from the redness starting at his wrist to his incessant coughing and eventually difficulty in breathing. It only took a few minutes. "How could you let him touch seafood at all?" the doctor said if we had brought Mr. Zhou in any later, he might have died. Sister, how could you not know about this? Why didn't you know? At the hospital door, Lin Xiaomiao looked at me with teary eyes, her voice tinged with a cry. She liked Zhou Qingchuan. I knew that, otherwise, I wouldn't have given him a second glance in our past lives. Well, he drank it himself, didn't he? I weakly defended myself when the door to the hospital room opened. The nurse nodded, indicating the patient was awake. Through the slightly open door, I saw Zhou Qingchuan sitting on the bed, looking at me. It seemed he had heard every word of my feeble defense. His gaze was empty, void of anything, even disappointment. Lin Xiaomiao rushed to his bedside. Mr. Zhou, how are you? I followed, but the man, silent for a long time, suddenly coughed. Lin Huan, his voice was low, his dark eyes staring straight at me. My heart skipped a beat, and I instinctively walked towards him. Can you never appear in front of me again? This was Zhou Qingchuan's request. I don't know why my reaction was even more intense than his. I stormed out of the hospital room, slamming the door behind me. Yes, I manipulated situations. I was heartless. I was utterly wicked. But why? Why couldn't he still stand by my side? Why couldn't he just stand by my side? No matter what kind of person I was, he chose Lin Xiaomiao over me. When I got home, I happened to spot the stuffed toy lying on the sofa. It was a limited edition dragon that he won for me before we got married. He thought of it as just an ordinary gift. Back then, I had no clue that to win this dragon, he had scoured 5 malls and emptied 4 claw machines. In the end, he presented it to me in a bar. That day, I had him drink a lot. His ears turned red, slightly tipsy. He pulled out the dragon from behind his back. Lin Huan, he called my name. Can you look at me? He hid behind the dragon, waving its claws at me. Can I stay by your side, even if, it was a faint sigh, barely audible next to me. He threw away all the dignity of being Zhou Qingchuan. Even if I have to be the backup, that's fine. It turns out, memories really do haunt you in the dead of night. As I stood at the door of Zhou Qingchuan's hospital room past midnight. That's what I thought. The night was silent, the curtains barely covering the window. I stood beside his bed, looking down at the man who seemed restless even in his sleep. Zhou Qingchuan's face, undoubtedly, had the charm that made college girls daydream about him. With his high nose bridge and sharp brow bones, he always carried an air of pride. How come? He's been entangled with me for most of my life. I unconsciously leaned closer, only to find myself caught in his cold, deep gaze. He had woken up at some point, leaning against the headboard, watching me. His look was so cold, I instinctively stepped back. Have you finally grown to dislike me? I sniffled. For some reason, under the dim moonlight, I suddenly found myself smirking at him with a bit of self-mockery. Surprised, he said, clearly biting each word, shouldn't I dislike you? I felt a dark sharpness expanding around him. He sat up straight, his earnestness heartbreaking. You're so selfish, so utilitarian. Always resorting to the lowest tactics. Shouldn't I dislike you, Lin Huan? But so what? Zhou Qingchuan, are you telling me you just found out I'm like this? For some reason, tonight I was easily provoked. The night was uneasy, and for the first time, I wasn't so effortlessly poised in front of him. I grabbed his collar, feeling his anger too, as the blue veins on his neck stood out prominently. What's wrong? You don't want me anymore. Or do you think Lin Xiaomiao is better? That's why you're so affectionate with her. Let me tell you, even if we divorce, I won't let you have a happy future. If I can't have it, I'll destroy it. For someone like me, who lives in the mire and can't stand the sight of any bright light, it's impossible for them to reach a so-called happy ending. I bared my teeth at him, but was met with his clear, calm eyes. He leaned back on the bed, a faint smile on his lips as he looked at me. Ah Juan, when did you become so irritable? So easily stirred up? You've lost. I suddenly let go of his collar. Yes, what am I doing? Not only exposing my weaknesses. At this moment, if I wanted to find a way to get through the current difficulties, the best solution would be to appease the man in front of me. In my past life, I was adept at this, but looking at the man who now sat composedly before me, my throat felt clogged, and I couldn't speak. After a while, I swallowed the words, please, I beg you. Instead, I said, fine. Just you wait, Zhou Qingchuan, I can do just fine without you. Also, I will not lose, refuse to lose, and absolutely cannot lose. I walked out of the hospital room in high heels. Falling out with Zhou Qingchuan meant giving up on him completely. No matter how you look at it, it was an impractical plan. But I no longer wanted to bow down to him. It was you who gave up everything to join me in hell in our past lives. You who always clung to me. You endured my deceit for so long. And I had already decided to treat you well. I had already started to see you as family. Why then? I stared at my reflection in the elevator mirror. Luckily, I walked away so quickly, he couldn't see my eyes, red and swollen with tears. Why tell me now? You've come to your senses. It felt like being thrown back into the mire. Zhou Qingchuan's departure triggered a series of chain reactions. Everything unfolded just like in our past lives. Lin Xiaomiao gradually won everyone's favor. While I became the universally despised villain, the only difference was that Zhou Qingchuan, who had always been by my side in the past life, was no longer here. Miss Lin really knows how to hold her liquor. The middle-aged, slightly corpulent man approached me, reeking of alcohol. I struggled greatly to suppress the urge to pour my drink over his balding head. This collaboration was crucial. My father had already begun to lose hope in me, showing a clear preference for nurturing Lin Xiaomiao. Over the years, my ambition to climb the ranks had made me too many enemies, and what would become of me, an orphan with no support? I might just be kicked back into the mire I came from. Mr. Wang is joking. I brushed my hair from my forehead, and the man stared at me, almost drooling, but whenever the topic of collaboration came up, he would skillfully change the subject, taking the opportunity to ply me with more alcohol. He was indeed a sly old fox. The discomfort from the alcohol continually assaulted my brain, and I squinted my eyes, drinking another glass amid the cheering crowd. But in a daze, a sharp figure suddenly entered my view. The door of the private room opened. Ah, Professor Zhou, you finally arrived. The disdainful and lecherous old man who had just been ogling me immediately switched to a flattering demeanor. And this was the first time I saw Zhou Qingchuan in 3 months. He still seemed like a pristine white lotus, untouched by the dirt of the world. Mr. Wang, the man casually nodded at the others. I'm here to introduce one of my students to you. With that, I saw Lin Xiaomiao timidly peeking from behind Zhou Qingchuan. Now I understood why Mr. Wang had been so evasive earlier. His pharmaceutical company could double its market value if it could connect with Zhou Qingchuan, and with Lin Xiaomiao here, Zhou Qingchuan paving the way meant I had to hand over my deal to her. Strangely, Lin Xiaomiao seemed uninterested, yet she always managed to precisely snatch away everything related to me. The deal fell through. I feared that if I stayed a few seconds longer, I wouldn't be able to stop myself from throwing my drink, half on Mr. Wang's head, half on Zhou Qingchuan's head, so I pretended to greet them and walked out of the private room. But as I supported myself along the hallway, something felt terribly wrong. My body felt strange, as if something was burning up. My head was heavy, my feet light, my body weak. What had that old man, Pai Yongda, put in my drink? The next second, I was abruptly pulled into a corner nearby. I struggled violently, but my body was too weak to fight back. Hee, Miss Zhou, can you just stay still? Everyone knows you're just a cast-off. You were adopted. There was Zhou Qingchuan, and you squandered that. However, if you're willing to spend the night with me, I might just consider giving you this deal. His greasy voice exploded next to my ear. The drug was extremely potent. My limbs were weak. I desperately tried to make some noise, but the club was high-end with good sound insulation, and there was no one around. I could only watch helplessly as that man lecherously reached under my skirt, but suddenly, footsteps echoed in the hallway. I had never been so certain that they were Zhou Qingchuan's footsteps. It was only at that moment that I realized how familiar I was with him. I desperately tried to make a noise, but the man was pressing down on me, choking me, making it hard to breathe. For the first time, tears fell heavily due to physical discomfort. You motherfucker. I heard him panting threats in my ear. Just as the footsteps started to fade, an untimely noise was made. The footsteps stopped, then turned towards us. I struggled fiercely, silently raging. Zhou Qingchuan, come the fuck over here. I'm about to die. But whether out of rage or desperation, the man pressed his fingers harder around my throat. My heart raced as the footsteps stopped right beside us. Suddenly, a timid, sweet voice called from down the hall. Mr. Zhou, there are a lot of people in the room, and I'm really scared by myself. Can you come and keep me company? Don't go to such a dark place. The footsteps abruptly halted. My heart sank into boundless darkness. The next second, I was abruptly pulled into the dimly lit hallway. The man's screams also abruptly resounded in my ears. Zhou Qingchuan seemed to have learned some fighting skills over the years, but when the man was thrown out, I was also shocked. Then, I fell into a less than enthusiastic embrace. Zhou Qingchuan, He took off his coat and draped it over my disheveled form. The turmoil inside me surged more than ever due to his brief touch. Strangely, I resisted letting things continue this way and struggled to get off him. But he held me tightly. My throat was sweet, unable to make a sound. Slowly, more and more people came out of the private room, and I saw Lin Xiaomiao's red, aggrieved eyes. My consciousness then sank into a deep, dark stupor. I was awakened by the cold. The shower continuously sprayed liquid much colder than my body temperature. The man stood by, watching me, his thoughts inscrutable. Give me my clothes. I tried to get up, finding my limbs powerless. His touch sparked a shiver. I abruptly shook off his hand. In fact, in my past life, I always treated Zhou Qingchuan this way. Temper is nurtured, and in my past life, his indulgence almost let me do whatever I wanted. Mr. Wang gave you a very new drug. Are you sure you can walk out? He looked down at me, his expression ambiguous. I worked in drug research and understood the lingering effects and antidotes for such drugs. And now, the perfect antidote was right in front of me. If it were the me from my past life, I would have clung to him by now. But now, I hesitated. Suddenly, the sound of a belt unbuckling lightly echoed. I shivered, then the clear water splashed lightly. He grasped the back of my neck. The kiss came suddenly. Here. I'll skip the part about the antidote's effects wearing off, which nobody likes to read about. It felt like I was being rescued from a torrential sea. My mind started to regain a slight semblance of clarity, and then, with all the reality of the moment, I slapped him hard across the face. His head turned sharply to one side. Zhou Qingchuan's features are strikingly handsome in an aggressive way, his eyelashes extraordinarily long. From my angle, they were dotted with fine droplets of water. He let out a laugh, like a flower suddenly blooming in ruins. You really know how to use and discard. The sound of trickling water still echoed around the bathroom. Through the shimmering reflection, I looked into his eyes, hiding countless secrets. Zhou Qingchuan, why did you guide Lin Xiaomiao? Whether it's because you pity her past self, or you genuinely fell for her, Zhou Qingchuan, if you have her in your heart, when it comes time to choose between us, don't choose me. I'm not someone who is very emotional. Even after pondering most of my life, I still don't understand what liking someone truly means, but I view everything the same way. I want it all, the very best. If he is distracted, then he is worthless to me, and I am not lacking in worthless things. Lin Huan, his eyes clouded over with darkness, impenetrable. We've both been given a second life. We both know what the best path forward is, don't we? What? Is your logic telling you not to repeat the mistakes of your past life? Then just leave. I splashed water at him. He didn't dodge. Instead, he continued to look at me with those pale, sad eyes. Ah Huan, he called me, the name lingering on his lips, grinding away disappointment and resentment. It's not me who's repeating the same mistakes, it's you, stubbornly following the same dark path, unwilling to repent. Right, I froze. Panic slowly magnifying within me. The man stood up. The world outside so dark, tied to his shadow, his gaze rested on me, my thoughts in turmoil. Next time don't let Director Wang handle things. He's too careless. He didn't dispose of the medication packaging properly. In the quiet of the bathroom, I listened to his every word, striking deep into my heart. That medication came from your lab, didn't it? He couldn't have known the formula before our collaboration. Today, so many saw me protecting you. That should be enough for you. With those words, the man left the bathroom. I lay alone in the bathtub, half submerged in darkness. I looked up, staring at the gloomy ceiling. Yes, that's enough. I can't lose. Director Wang might look a decade or two older than me, but he was actually my college classmate. Everything today was orchestrated by me. I gambled on whether Zhou Qingchuan would save me publicly. If he saved me, it would prove that our relationship wasn't as fractured as it seemed. And I could use him again as a leverage for my comeback. I won the bet. Now, there are probably many partners eager to contact me and restart collaborations, but why am I so afraid? The way Zhou Qingchuan looked at me when he left, I suddenly realized, my heart. It turns out I can also be so disoriented and panicked because of his disappointment. Destruction at the root is the relentless redemption of the soul. Why do villains in movies and dramas live so long? Perhaps they are just like me, shameless, having abandoned too much. As the year draws to a close, my position has finally been solidified once again. Lin Xiaomiao messed up several collaborations, and eventually, my father, the capitalist, shifted his focus back to me. Things were supposed to progress positively from here, but unfortunately, as I mentioned earlier, I had made too many mistakes and enemies in my past life, so. After 3 consecutive social gatherings, on my way home at midnight, I was abducted by several men in baseball caps and shoved into a white van without feeling any surprise. Who ordered you to kidnap me? I can offer twice the money. No, 3 times. Unequal negotiations always revolve around pleasing the other party, so as I was pushed into the vehicle, my mind was rapidly spinning. Unfortunately, they were unmoved. And suddenly a knife was pressed against my throat. TCH. They weren't after money, but my life. May I ask whom have I offended? Before I could finish my sentence, the knife had already pierced slightly into my skin. I shut up as a voice modified by a voice changer echoed in my ear. Don't worry, I don't want your life. I just need you to do something for me. The blade traced my veins, constantly reminding me that my life was hanging by a thread. Now, call Zhou Chuan. Ask him for the key to the YDX2 formula. YDX2, I remember. This anti-cancer drug was about to be launched, spearheaded by Zhou Chuan. Its release could potentially revolutionize the fields of medicine and pharmacy. Unfortunately, in my past life, both Zhou Chuan and I died on the eve of its launch. I was killed in a car accident on the way to the launch event, and he died running into the blazing inferno to embrace me, disregarding his own safety. We're not buddies. I'm just his ex-wife. Do you think I can get something so important? But hearing the kidnapper's demand almost made me laugh. It might be the illusion I created that deceived them, making these people think that Zhou Chuan was still the same person I could summon or dismiss at will. Only I knew that even if I died now, it wouldn't cause him a ripple. Tell him you've been kidnapped. Tell him you're going to die. The blade finally drew a line of blood along my neck. The man eased up a bit, then pressed the knife tip against my chest. I really had no choice. From his tone, he wasn't lying. If I couldn't get the key, I definitely wouldn't survive the night. But YDX2 was essentially all of Zhou Chuan's life's work. Those people wanted the formula probably to launch it before he could. If I actually managed to get it, it would ruin Zhou Chuan's life. The brilliant and great future of Professor Zhou, compared to the life of a villain like me. It was clear I should sacrifice myself, but unfortunately, as I said, I'm a selfish person. Give me the phone. I can only say I'll try my best. The man seemed pleased with my compliance. Before the call connected, I prepared myself. First, I needed to use a perfectly pitched crying tone, then add a tremble to my voice. Say to him, Zhou Chuan, I'm about to die. Please save me. Because he always fell for my act of submission. This way, the chances of success might not be 70 or 60%, but definitely 30 or 40. But the moment the call connected, my mind went blank. Hello. Hearing his softly responding voice reminded me that it had been 4 months since we last spoke. I thought for a long time. Lin Huan, shouldn't you be the most selfish person? Lin Huan, don't you care about your own life? Lin Huan, you already owe Zhou Chuan so much. What's a little more? But in the end, as I looked up at the moon outside the window, tonight's moonlight was just too beautiful. I said, Zhou Chuan, happy birthday. I said, you're such a fool. Lucky that today happens to be your birthday. Don't fall for me in your next life, dummy. I lunged towards the tip of the knife, wondering what the greatest failure in life is. A miserly, selfish ghost. One day, I gave everything generously. It's so shameful. I've thought about being a good person. If I were born into an ordinary family, with a father and a mother, if I hadn't been kicked and pushed around by everyone from childhood. It's not that I don't want to be a good person. It's just that if I've lived until now, I couldn't possibly be a good person. But the definition of a good person varies from person to person. I bankrupted a company, sparing its owner the pain of experiencing its future failure. Am I not a good person? I'm too good. Actually, however, I think Zhou Chuan is a good person in the conventional sense. After all, he's lived an upright life, never doing a single despicable thing. So, when he got close to me, all I could think about was destroy him. Destroy him. I couldn't destroy him. He's incorruptible, a world apart from me. I remember one night, after we became an item, he rose from me. I suddenly hooked my arms around his neck, our faces so close, his breath on my face, his intense gaze burning into me. Would you love me, even if I were a bad woman? I asked him, almost playfully. His Adam's apple bobbed gently. Then he stared at me, his sincere black eyes fixed on me. He said, I would. His fingertips touched the most sensitive part of my spine, biting my shoulder, softly enduring. When have you ever not been a bad woman? So I had already ruined him. There was no denying it. The world changes. I don't believe in 100% true feelings in this world. The only thing I'm sure of is his love for me. He managed to do something so difficult. So, if one day my broken life could have a glorious end, then I would reluctantly allow him to give it a grand finale. I stared at the ceiling, moving up and down. Is this heaven? Impossible. Not because heaven looks too much like a ship's hold, but because of the person sleeping next to me. How could Zhou Chuan and I possibly end up in the same place after death? you're awake." The person next to me glanced at me lightly, then pulled the slightly slipped blanket back over my shoulders. "Where are we?" "On the high seas. We're probably approaching Copenhagen soon." "That's quite a drift. Why didn't I die?" "You want to die that badly?" I turned to look at him, his eyes dark, his complexion not so good, and his gaze a bit fierce. I raised my hand, stroking his stubble. "So you came to save me after all. What's the cost?" Zhou Qinchuan, give up the identity of a medical scholar, hand over YDX2, never to involve in this field again, nor step half into the country's territory. Right. I turned my head, the ship's rail framing the surging waves. The ones who orchestrated my kidnapping were led by my father. I should have known. My rights are too heavy. He needed to pave the way for his own daughter. In the end, I'm still just a stray dog that anyone can kick around. The sea breeze carried a faint, moist scent. I leaned next to him, tightening the blanket around me. "Zhou Qinchuan, don't you have even the slightest grievance?" He stared at me. "Ah, Juan, there are many things that I just do if I feel like doing them. I've tried taking a different path in life, but it wasn't what I wanted. In this world, everything is rigidly defined, everything in black and white. But for you, I can break all the rules." In the dimly lit cabin, he gently touched my hand. "If it means following a path to the end with you, then I'm ready to spend another lifetime by your side. I'm so infatuated with you, especially when you gave up your life for me. I really hate myself. My life is already a mess. What does it matter if I let go of my pride for you?" He asked me what I was smiling about. "I just think, this world is hellishly fair." I looked up. "I have nothing left. But I still have you. You have everything, yet you're stuck with me." I quietly said to myself, "Zhou Qinchuan, let's not meet in the next life." I rubbed the tips of his fingers, then our fingers intertwined. "This lifetime, let me protect you." Letter to Lin Huan. "Yesterday, Mrs. Smith next door told me she saw you pacing at the garden gate for a long time before heading home. This morning, you rushed out of the door without a word, using grocery shopping as an excuse. I think you must have heard the news from across the ocean. YDX2 is indeed my life's work, and I had anticipated the unprecedented success it would bring to the Lin family. To be honest, I find the torment of not having spoken to you for 11 whole hours far greater than seeing my efforts used by others. I know we feel differently about matters of the heart. You can't understand my love for you, a feeling that for me transcends conventional meaning and even life and death. Therefore, you don't need to worry about hurting me. After all, your mere attention is a gift enough for me. You hid in your room last night and cried. I heard it." I felt contempt mixed with pity and annoyance, yet also a thrill in my heart. It shows that you care about me, and this slight concern makes me tremble with excitement, almost desperate to hold you and kiss you. I constantly suppress these pathological, frantic thoughts, an assault of my mind upon you, my sin. So, you don't need to blame yourself, you don't need to, just